Bonsoir tout le monde. Nous allons procéder à l'ouverture de la séance publique. But before we do so, this is a special day. Our CAO has been with us for 2 years today. Hein? Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le gérant. Merci. Madame la greffière.
Your Worship, all public meetings of Moncton City Council are simultaneously translated. Hearing assistance devices are located at the entrance of the council chambers. Members of the public have the right to address City Council in the official language of their choice. Meetings are broadcast live in both official languages on the city's YouTube channel, accessible via moncton.ca, and will also be aired at 9 p.m. this evening on rogerstv.com. Individuals who have registered with the City Clerk's office at least 7 days prior to the meeting agenda deadline will be allocated 5 minutes to deliver their presentation. All other public presenters will be allotted 2 minutes. 1 minute warning will be provided to indicate the time remaining. An important reminder, all presenters, city staff, and council members are expected to conduct themselves respectfully at all times. Disparaging remarks, offensive language, or profane expressions directed towards council staff or members of the public will not be permitted. Any breach of this code of conduct may result in the presenter being directed to leave the council chambers at the discretion of the chair. Toutes les séances publiques du Conseil municipal de Moncton sont traduites simultanément. Des appareils d'aide à l'audition sont disponibles à l'entrée de la salle du Conseil. Les membres du public ont droit de s'adresser au conseil municipal dans la langue officielle de leur choix. Les séances sont diffusées en direct dans les 2 langues officielles sur les chaînes YouTube de la ville, accessibles sur le site moncton.ca. Ils seront également diffusés à 21h ce soir sur rogerstv.com. Les personnes qui se sont inscrites auprès de le bureau de la greffière municipale au moins 7 jours avant la date limite de dépôt de l'ordre du jour de la séance disposeront de 5 minutes pour faire leur présentation. Tout autre intervenant public disposeront de 2 minutes. Un avertissement d'1 minute sera donné pour indiquer que le temps restant. Rappel important, tous les intervenants, le personnel municipal et les membres du conseil municipal sont tenus de se comporter de manière respectueuse en tout temps. Les remarques désobligeantes, le langage offensant ou les expressions grossières à l'égard du conseil municipal, du personnel ou des membres du public ne seront pas tolérés. Tout manquant à cette code de conduite peut entraîner l'expulsion de l'intervenant de la salle du conseil à la direction de la présidente ou du président.
Merci, Madame la greffière. Est-ce qu'il y a des changements à l'ordre du jour?
Je n'ai pas de change qui m'ont été dit.
No changes to the agenda. So I need a mover and a seconder for the agenda. Conseiller Kingston, Conseiller Edgett. So no questions. We will go to a manual vote, show of hands. Donc, passer à l'unanimité. Merci, Madame la greffière.
Are there any conflict of interest? Les déclarations des conflits d'intérêts?
There are none.
The adoption of minutes, l'adoption des procès-verbaux, les séances ordinaires publiques du 3 juin, du 16 juin, du 21 juillet et du 18 août 2025.
So we will be voting for these in a block. Is that correct, Madame la greffière? I need a mover and a seconder again. So, conseiller Léger, conseiller seconder, conseiller Steves. Merci. So any questions on that? Oui, conseiller Léger.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Peut-être c'est une question à administration. Je sais qu'on a parlé dans le passé de le fait que ça prenait longtemps pour nos minutes. Est-ce qu'on est arrivé à une solution pour 2026 où on aurait nos minutes dans un temps qui serait beaucoup plus raisonnable que ce qu'on voit ce soir?
Je pose la question à la greffière, mais je pense on a fait beaucoup de travail dans les dernières semaines, dans les derniers mois. Je pense qu'on a vu que les minutes arrivaient plus rapidement. Je ne sais pas si c'est juste comme un nettoyage des choses qui n'avaient pas
Oui.
encore été faites. Puis, mais dernièrement, je pense qu'à l'intérieur d'un mois, on est en train d'adopter nos minutes.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci. So we will go to the vote. So show of hands, please. Donc, carried unanimously. Merci.
Oops.
Madame la greffière.
Next is event street closures and noise exemptions for winter 2026. And council has the CRF. It is for Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada, Saturday, January 17th. And Barbegazi, I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Oh, look, I got the thumbs up from Chad. Thank you. Which will be held on February 12th and 13th.
So do we need a motion for that? So could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Conseiller Richard, Conseiller Butler. Donc, any questions? If there are none, we will go to the vote. Is it electronic?
Yes.
C'est beau. Merci. Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
Next is public and administration presentation, is exposé du public et de l'administration. Et ce soir, on a un exposé du public. C'est une présentation, c'est appelé Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Aucun enfant ne dort par terre dans notre ville. Et on a Marie-Claire Pierce, coprésidente de SHP Moncton, qui va venir nous adresser.
Bonsoir, Marie-Claire.
Thank you for the opportunity. We're retired from these books. Where are we going?
Oops. Wait.
Wait.
There you go.
There you go. Well, you can tell it's been 7 years since I've been in front of this podium. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on a new program that's come to Moncton. Myself and my co-president, Jim Rossetti, started this initiative about 5 months ago. And it's called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. It's No Kid Sleeps on the Floor in our town. We raise funds to build beds for kids who sleep on the floor. And how am I going forward? Here we go, got it. Basically, what we know at the national level, there's between 2 and 5% of children who sleep on the floor. And nationally, we have about 18% of kids who live in poverty. Now, the alarming thing is that here in Moncton, over 26% of children are living in poverty. So there is a need in the community. Just a little bit about SHP Canada. They started in 2017. It is a platform from the USA. US started this initiative, and it's actually gone worldwide. And it has, we have a charitable status, and in Canada here, we have 13 chapters and growing. The East Coast here is the fastest growing in Canada right now. We've got our first chapter started in St. John. We started about 5 months ago here in Moncton, and we serve Moncton, Dieppe, and Riverview. And Belle Bay, originally Beresford, they're showing interest in getting a chapter going. PEI, all of PEI are being served and getting ready to start a chapter. And we just got a call from Nova Scotia that they're interested. And also in the Shediac area, there has been some interest as well. So we're the fastest growing in Canada right now. How we do our business. We do our business in 2 ways. One, we invite the community out to our community build. After we've raised enough money, we invite the community to register online and come and help us build beds. About a month ago now, we built 30 beds in one session, which was a huge feat for us. That was the best we've done. We're getting better at what we're doing. Basically, how a build happens is we invite everyone to come in, and we set up stations. So there's a sanding station, a drilling station, a station where they'd make the headboards, the baseboards, a staining station. We do logos on all of our beds, etc. So there's no experience needed in order to help us build beds, because all the wood we cut in advance. So there's no scary stuff happening. And the second way we do our business is we invite corporations to sponsor a build. And we're having our first actually indoor build on Wednesday, of which BioScript Solutions is our first corporation has come forward. They sponsored $4,500 to build 10 beds. So they're coming in on Wednesday to build 10 beds. Now, the cool thing about the corporation part of it is that they come, and it's not only them giving money to a great cause, it's them actually getting involved in building beds. And in some cases, BioScript have asked that their staff help us deliver the beds as well. So it's a full circle there, and the delivery is the part that touches your heart. So it's a great opportunity for a team building initiative, and I offer the City of Moncton. You have lots of staff. It would be fun if the city would consider that in the spring, so we could bring our operation to your parking lot, have your staff come out and help us build beds. Can I go back? How would I go back here? I think I might have gone forward. Thank you. Yeah, no, it keeps going forward on its own. Here we go. Yeah, next one. Thank you. This is my assistant. I'd like to, yeah. So we serve kids between the ages of 3 and 17. Good sleep means healthier kids physically, emotionally, socially, and also academically. Beds provide dignity for parents as well. This mom here in this picture from Iran, I believe, we've delivered so many beds, I can't remember, but she was wonderful. She was so excited to have her 3 kids in beds. She hugged me twice as we were leaving, and it was a true hug. She was so happy and proud that she could have her kids sleeping in beds that evening. So what's the cost of a bed? The cost of a bed is $450. That includes the bed frame, which we build from raw lumber. Now, the raw lumber, we're not building pianos. We're building solid beds that may not look great, but they are very solid. Brand new mattress, all new bedding, etc. So for $450, anyone could sponsor a child and have them sleeping in a bed. And 10% of everything we raise goes to the national office, and that provides us with a lot of stuff, from insurance to the accountant that takes care of our account. So anything that's donated goes to the national, goes into a Moncton account, and that's where we end up reaching in to buy lumber and mattresses and all of that stuff. They offer training or a taxable receipt. We also get the digital platform from the USA, which provides us with a ton of resources, from web design initiatives to management of all of our inventory, all of that. So it is a really initiative that you can just jump into and get started. So what are we doing? We're doing a number of things. We're coordinating with corporations. We are working with nonprofit organizations that can use our service. We have a partnership with Crossroads for Women. We have a partnership with a YWCA that all serve moms and dads that may be single and moving into apartment buildings, etc. We're working with Quilting Guild. We just had 63, since we started, 63 beautiful beautiful quilts that have been built, that have been made by about 3 or 4 quilting guilds that we've partnered with, and they provide those and they offer those at no cost. They're just helping us get great beds and packages to kids that are deserving. So we present to corporations, and the big initiative that we're starting, hopefully this January, is Kids Building for Kids. We have started working with high schools and their woodworking programs, of which they're going to build beds for kids, and we hope also many of them will have an opportunity to actually deliver and see the impact that they're making in our community. There's lots of ways to help. You could be just sharing this initiative in this program with others. It could be donate. You can go online, donate a pillow. You can donate bedding. You can donate a bed. So there's lots of ways. We're looking for people also on a volunteer basis that might have a truck and a trailer to help us doing the delivery. The delivery is the longest process. We are tomorrow delivering 8 beds to deserving folks, 4 in Dieppe, and I think another 4 in Riverview. So there is a need out there, which is sad, but we feel like we're fulfilling that need, and we're getting a lot of great volunteers supporting. One of the cool things, too, is those that we've delivered beds to, they're now coming out helping us build beds, and it's pretty heartwarming. I don't know if this is going to work, but no, it's not. Okay, I need to go back. Come on, my assistant. Oh, here we go. Yes, we're good. All right, this is the last slide. Basically, when you go to our website, and I should note that our website is not translated. This program was in Alberta and out west mostly, so there was not a need. Since we've come on, we've insisted that they start translating the website so that our folks can go on and read in the language of their choice. And they have committed to doing that. So it's going to take a little time, but we ask for patience, and we are excited about the opportunity in the near future to have everything on the website translated. So when you do go to our website, there's only 3 buttons. There's 1, volunteer. 2, there's donate. Again, you can donate at any level at all and apply for a bed. There's 2 ways to apply for a bed. A mom or dad can go on and apply. A next door neighbor that knows there's a need there, they could go out and refer. Or an organization like Crossroads for Women, who have folks that are moving out of their residence into their own residence. That's where we kick in, and they can refer as well. So that is kind of where we're at right now. It's been a lot of work. Feels like I'm full-time again, but it's very rewarding, and we just want you to share what we're doing. And the last, I have a flyer here, and we've initiated a Christmas initiative, and it says, "Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is a bed." And it's a flyer that just identifies that if you have someone that has everything, maybe a donation on their behalf might be an idea for Christmas, and I'll leave these here for you. I have them both in French and English. All right, any questions? I'd be open to any questions.
Merci infiniment, Marie-Claire. Oui, je pense que conseiller Kingston.
Thank you, Madame Alice. Thank you, Marie-Claire. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
It's an incredible initiative. And again, another sobering stat that we're not aware of, certainly I wasn't, 26% of children in Moncton area live in poverty. That's from the Human Development Council of 2024, I thought I saw.
Yes, and it's out of St. John, the Human Development Council is out of St. John, and they did a report in 2024.
Well, BioScript Solutions is to be commended. I love the employee team building effort, and I would imagine the Chamber of Commerce, through its contacts, has this information as well, Marie-Claire?
We're just a few people that are retired, and we're trying to get to everyone. We have a business advisory team that are working hard on fundraising as well, so we're going to kick that in come January. We've really only been in business since June. We've already delivered 75 beds, and our hope is to deliver by the end of December 100 beds to the community.
Well, let's hope there's a groundswell.
Thank you.
I know the team buildings are very, they're fun to do, and we get involved as a council level, but I can think of, for example, the barbecues on High Street at Harvest House in the summer for the residents there. So a team building would be, to me, an automatic if you're running a large corporation or business with a social committee, as most do.
Thank you.
Get involved that way, but it's certainly an amazing organization, and your messaging is very simple, raising funds to build beds for kids who don't have one, and the Christmas initiative, too, is a real heart-touching line as well.
We all have folks that, well, they have everything. My kids have everything. I mean, they'll donate, a bed or a mattress on their behalf, and it's kind of a nice opportunity to give in a different way.
Well, continued success, bonne chance.
Thank you.
Compliments of the season. Thank you, Marie-Claire. Merci, Madame Harris. Thank you.
Merci, conseiller Kingston. Conseiller Richard.
Merci, Marie Thériault. Merci, Marie-Claire. That's it. To faire ta présentation, I just want to note, I've seen your presentation before, and
Okay.
and when you brought in the bed itself
Yeah.
to your presentation,
Yes.
I hope you continue to do that, because that was, it adds quite a bit.
Yeah, we made a miniature one because it's hard to to move that one around quite a bit. So we did make a miniature one, and I meant to bring it today to put it right in the middle, and
It would have
I
fit right
totally
there.
forgot.
Yeah.
Yes, it would have,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, thank you for that, yes.
That was
Yeah.
very,
Yeah,
it hits really, really hard, so, and kids mean so much, so.
yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
thanks for what you're doing. Merci.
Thank you.
There are no other questions. Merci encore, Marie-Claire, et bonne chance.
Merci.
Madame la greffière.
Our next presentation is an administration presentation, exposé de l'administration. Et on a une présentation sur le comité de l'inclusion sociale, et Danny Blanco est ici. And I see the assistant Vincent here as well. Thank you.
Bonsoir, Diane Vincent. Merci d'être là.
Thank you, Council. I'm really excited to be here tonight to be able to show you some of the wonderful work that the committee's been doing. We do have Diane Blanco here as our chair, and Yves Bellevaux, our vice chair, had to send his regrets. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it.
Merci. Pour l'ordre du jour, on a les membres du comité, une brève présentation sur l'histoire du comité, les partenariats dans la oh my God, aujourd'hui c'est vraiment la journée. Collectivité, puis le plan pour 2026.
This is our list of members, and as mentioned, Diane is our chair and Yves is our co-chair. We also have tonight who came to the meeting, Sue McDonald, and I understand that a lot of the membership's also watching online. One of the newer members would be Maruf Hassan, who just came on board just a couple months ago. And just as a refresher, Council, these new committees members, with the exception of Maruf, who was just recent, were appointed in January. I'm sorry.
Bring it down.
Oh, there we go. In June 17th of 2024, and we had a new governance structure approved by Council on March 18th of that year.
Pour nos mandats, le comité sur l'inclusion sociale est chargé de donner ses avis au conseil sur les questions d'inclusion sociale. Le conseil peut demander de tels avis au comité ou ce dernier peut lui donner adressés sur leur propre initiative.
And continuing that, the mandate for the committee is we're also tasked with providing staff with recommendations on how to best approach addressing action items contained within the social inclusion plan better together, and by recommending to council specific initiatives, including funding measures to enhance social inclusion within the city.
Nos piliers. Le plan d'inclusion sociale s'articule autour des 16 piliers, que je crois qu'on avait déjà partagé ça le mois de février. Last presentation was February?
February, yep.
Yep. Dont chacun représente un grand secteur prioritaire. So là, vous pouvez voir, ça, c'est nos piliers pour l'année qui a commencé en 2023 jusqu'à 2027. En total, on a 96 actions qui contiennent 16 piliers.
At the end of 2024, we had 40-plus organizations attend the Social Inclusion Cafe. We had this over at the John Howard Society's hub on Joyce. And the whole focus of that was to prioritize the action items within the Social Inclusion Plan. As mentioned, there are 96 items in there, and there's only so much that our group can do at a time. So we met with community leaders and nonprofits and volunteers, and we set to prioritize various action items. There we go. So this is what came out of that meeting. We developed a focused social inclusion plan out of the 2024 CAFE, and it resulted in the establishment of working groups for the committee to focus on. The last bullet here, the neighborhood profiles, being the report that we presented to you just in February of this year.
Depuis, le Conseil a accordé au comité un financement annuel de 100 000 $ pour mettre en œuvre les actions prévues dans le plan. Voici les programmes de Magma que la communauté a financés cette année. Oh. Yeah. That one. So, l'animation des séances de formation interculturelle dans les écoles, bibliothèques humaines, permettant aux participants de partager des histoires de culture et de connectivité. Salon d'information boussole communautaire pour les nouveaux arrivants. Ensemble dans la vérité, une journée d'apprentissage et d'unité. Here, we have a few photos from the Together in Truth event that happened in September that welcomed a little bit more than 166 participants. The keynote presentation was from Helen Sulis, if I'm saying it correctly. He shared a lot of powerful teachings and stories from the Wanasaki tradition, focusing on the history of the Walastic and indigenous perspective on reconciliation. On a aussi vu un film, un documentaire de l'ONF. En effet, juste une présentation, c'était vraiment émotionnel. Des participants des expériences autochtones et a commencé vraiment des bonnes discussions ensemble qui a permis comme juste plus de connexion avec la communauté autochtone et aussi avec les participants. Durant l'événement, j'ai eu vraiment beaucoup de commentaires positifs des nouveaux arrivants qui ont trouvé une bonne connexion avec la communauté autochtone. C'était vraiment un événement vraiment intéressant, je peux dire. We had a moment of engagement, opportunities for dialogue, reflection, and learning throughout the day, creating a safe and inclusive space for all.
And here are some initiatives that we've funded through the United Way that the committee has funded. We expect to have reports from United Way on these activities in the coming months. We've only just recently supported them, so at our next update that we give to council, you'll be able to see all the wonderful work that the United Way is doing.
So what we have in store for 2026, crisis intervention training, public opinion knowledge survey, expanding microgrant for cultural events, social inclusion summit that is coming. That one I know that we're really excited to do so. So that's our plan for 2026. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Merci beaucoup, Conseiller Richard.
Merci, Mme Asterio. Merci, Diani. Bien fait ça. Thanks, both of you, for the presentation. Thanks, Sue, for being here as well. I know not everybody was able to come, and that's reality. That's That's what we do. But I really want to thank this committee. I didn't know where I fit in when I was appointed, but it's such strong conversations, and so much work has been done, as you're showing to council today and to the public. I appreciate all the work that you guys have put in. Vincent, thanks for keeping us in line a bit. Merci au conseiller Bourgeois aussi. C'est un gros travail d'équipe que j'ai tellement apprécié. So I really enjoyed it. That's all I had. Merci.
Merci, conseiller Richard. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Mme la maire. Merci, Diani et Vincent. Je n'ai pas besoin de répéter les commentaires. Je l'ai déjà dit auparavant, le comité est dynamique. C'est des spark plugs qui n'arrêtent pas de contribuer à une cause très importante. J'ai une question sur votre présentation. You said we have 96 measures in the social inclusion plan. And you've identified some of the things that you worked on this past year coming to an end. Are there any of these measures that you tried to implement, but either found it too impossible, and then we should probably update or tweak the plan accordingly?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the action items within our social inclusion plan was to establish multilingual signage throughout the community, given the large number of immigrants that we have from all over the world. So the committee actually spent quite some time going down the road of QR codes that would sort of be an easy, relatively easy and inexpensive fix to include at our signage. And we were hot and heavy for that for a bit, but with how quick AI is advancing, I think the better message would be, instead of putting QR codes which do come with some concerns, anybody can put a QR code and suddenly you have a virus-ridden link. So what we decided is that we need to sort of convey to community that we all have smartphones in our pockets that can do a really good job now of translating. That doesn't negate the responsibility and the need for us to have the two bilingual French and English on our signage, but given the large influx of individuals in our community, it's important, we felt, that we also included in different languages as well.
And I'll ask about the website, Facebook, social media page that is in the social inclusion plan, I think, where we would try to have a one-stop shop where everybody would be able to post their social inclusion activities and invite each other and invite the public who would be following that social media. Did you give that a shot?
We did, and in fact, so for folks who don't know, there is a social inclusion page that the City of Moncton hosts. It's a bit of a long website, so I'll just make the recommendation. If you just did Moncton Social Inclusion, it's more than likely going to be the first site that pops up under the city's website. So we do sort of have a storage for all things social inclusion on that page, but to your point, we did explore having a community calendar, like a sort of all-encompassing community calendar, and we know that there are nonprofits that have that, the city has that, but they're sort of disjointed. So having something central that anybody can look at and know what's coming up, maybe the Chinese Cultural Association is going to do something for Lunar New Year, as an example. So a one-stop shop to be able to find all that. We did explore it, and it's still a work in progress, but we are working with various departments at City Hall here to get to that conclusion.
OK. Merci beaucoup. J'ai un dernier commentaire, Madame la maire. Je l'ai fait plusieurs fois, c'est une demande d'inclure dans nos Council Report Form, en plus des, ce qu'on appelle les considérations financières et législatives ou légales, qu'on ait quelque chose sur l'inclusion sociale. Ce n'est pas tous les sujets qui vont venir devant nous qui concernent l'inclusion sociale, comme ce n'est pas tous les sujets qui ont des considérations financières ou des considérations légales, mais d'avoir en tête, en partant, l'inclusion sociale. Donc, je vais répéter, puis je vais continuer à le répéter jusqu'à temps qu'il soit là. Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Merci, conseiller Bourgeois. Il n'y a pas d'autres questions, donc merci à vous encore. Merci beaucoup. Madame la greffière.
The next is planning matters, les questions d'urbanisme, and the first this evening is an introduction for Price and Elmwood, and I see that Josh Davies is going to lead this.
Bonsoir, Josh.
Bonsoir, good evening. So as mentioned, this is an introduction of a rezoning application that was brought forward through to the Planning Department, located on Elmwood Drive. So the application is to rezone Lot 1-24 on Elmwood Drive from NC, being the Neighborhood Convenience Zone, and R2 to two-unit dwelling zone to R3 multi-unit dwelling zone. And the visual that will come in a future slide will kind of show why there are kind of two zones and what is ultimately being proposed. The purpose for the application is to accommodate a three-story development totaling 12 residential units on the property. So this property is located straddling on Elmwood Drive in Ward 1, south of the TCH. So looking at the map here, it's an irregular type lot, and there are two properties that are included on this. And I should mention too, the property and the applicant is Moncton Industrial Development. They are the applicant, but the intent would be that if successful through this rezoning process, that this would be constructed and developed by a private developer. So you'll see there the corner of on Elmwood Drive, there's frontage to several streets, and the northern portion of the property being zoned neighborhood convenience in pink, with the residential zoning taking place again further to the south. So you can see that in the current zoning map being number 2. On the farthest to the right, you'll see what is proposed, which is the R3 in totality for the multiple unit dwelling zone that would be required for this rezoning application. And part of this, if successful and through the conditions, there would be a consolidation of these lots to clean them up to make it one contiguous lot. So in terms of the site plan, as I mentioned, there are several streets that are involved with this application. Price Street to the north, Elmwood Drive to the west, Lee Drive to the east, and Davis Street, not Davies unfortunately, Davis Street to the south. You can see again how the property is laid out with the building closer to the north along that intersection of Elmwood Drive and Price Street, with the parking access being located off of Lee Drive, which is great because I think, as we know, Elmwood Drive is a busy corridor, and limiting the number of driveways along Elmwood Drive is certainly, I think, going to be a priority for us moving forward to ensure that we're minimizing the number of interactions between vehicles coming and going from the street. So the intent of what we're looking for in terms of a development on this location and this site and what it can carry is considered to be appropriate. There are some minor variances that would be required as part of this application, one being the frontage to Elmwood Drive. There is a special 6-meter right-of-way or 6-meter setback from Elmwood Drive. However, in consultation with MB Power, it was determined that a 5-meter utility easement would be sufficient. So we were able to put it through the channels and make sure that we weren't kind of upsetting the apple cart with that location with respect to Elmwood. Another is a reduction in parking, going from 12 to 8 spots, including a barrier-free parking space. This is considered to be acceptable due to the location of transit, access to amenities, and again, Elmwood Drive is a kind of corridor we would like to see less parking, potentially with more housing, more density along the street, and hoping, again, that future residents in this area, their car may not be their main focus of transit, it may be public transit or alternate modes of transit to get them around. The last variance is a setback variance on Lee Drive. You can see to the southeast corner the building and its proximity to the setback line. The height of the building being 3 stories at 11.5 meters is only 1/2 meter higher than what would be permitted as of right in the R2 zone today. So that height would be 11 meters. So in review of the proposed development and how it's laid out with respect to the site, staff are very comfortable with that variance, and with the mitigation of landscaping and fencing that is proposed, overall staff are very supportive of the project with respect to its layout and its effort to mitigate any potential variances that would be resulted from the proposal. So if you're looking at the elevation here, you'll see the design, like many of the designed buildings coming through, they do meet and exceed the design standards that are contained within the zoning bylaw. Again, so a good fit for good size with respect to the lot layout and its location along Elmwood Drive. And you can see the north and the south elevations would be facing Price and Davis Street, with Lee and Elmwood Drive having the longer facades of the building. So with that said, administration recommends that Moncton City Council proceed with proposed zoning bylaw amendment Z-22.55 by giving first reading to the bylaw, referring to the bylaw to the Planning Advisory Committee for its written views, and setting a public hearing for January 19th, 2026. The conditions that would be, if approved, are relatively standard, and one that we've been, especially with respect to fencing, making sure that we're putting a timeline on that fence and making sure that we're detailing specifically the expectation of what that fence looks like in condition 1. And beyond that, with the lot being consolidated, the remaining conditions are our usual stock standard. And I would be happy to take any questions if there are any. We'll be going to Planning Advisory Committee on the 17th of December, which is a Tuesday this year, and the public hearing would be set for January 19th in 2026. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Josh. Councillor Crossman, do you wish to move the recommendation? I need a seconder, so Councillor Leblanc, merci. So go ahead with the question, Councillor Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Josh, thanks for the presentation. Well done. I have no problem moving this to the Public Advisory Council, so the PAC. My only concerns are traffic coming out of that circle. It's extremely dangerous on Elmwood Drive. So maybe if you can make a note, or somebody from planning can make a note. I know that it's not possible to get out to Price Street because of the access, but that's where the intersection is. But maybe if we could look at putting a X out on Elmwood Drive to allow the street that butts onto Elmwood Drive that's coming out from this development, so that traffic doesn't block people from coming out that side street, because I've seen it happen, not day after day, but year after year, where people are coming out and they're trying to turn left to go down Elmwood. And at that point, the turning lane to Hennessy starts. So now you're cutting across 5 lanes of traffic trying to get to an outside lane, that's coming from north end of Moncton, I'm going to call it, right? So maybe if you can make those notes, those are the only things that I had written down specifically to this. I know that we have done X outs in other parts of the city to allow better traffic flow. So maybe it's something that you could look at.
Yeah, and Renee is here, and I'm sure he's taking very good notes as well.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you sitting there, Renee.
Snuck right in here. Yeah, so that would be with respect to the Davis Street intersection?
Davis that comes out to Elmwood, correct?
Yeah,
At
that's
the
right,
corner?
that's right, yeah. So because the
Yeah.
parking comes out onto Lee through Davis to Elmwood.
Yeah, because I know
Yeah.
Kodiak Transit's going in there, they're coming out, they could be having a hard time turning left.
Yeah.
I know that area is frequent to a lot of taxi cabs coming and going for the affordability, so just something to look at.
Yeah, no, I've made a note, and we'll bring that and hopefully have a refinement forward PAC in December.
It's just a suggestion, that's all. I'm trying to make the traffic flow easier on Elmwood Drive, rather than getting people involved in accidents that back everybody up. Good, thank you, Your Worship.
Merci, Councillor Crossman. Councillor Richard.
Merci, Madam Stereo. Thank you, Josh, for the presentation. The second variance says to reduce the setback on Elmwood Drive from 6 meters to 5 meters. Should I be concerned about anything future happening on Elmwood Drive that we might need that extra meter?
Not at this stage, no. We've taken this through development review in terms of I think even looking at the potential widening of Elmwood Drive in this location, and it wasn't warranted. The biggest concern that we had was the public utility easement with MB Power, and they were happy with a 5 meter. So with that reduction from 6 to 5, they were satisfied with that 1 meter reduction. So no, nothing anticipated to potentially be an issue in the future.
In the future, okay. The only other thing I have is the dates that this is all happening. Not that long ago, we had some issues during the Christmas time, and people were upset that they didn't have enough time to look at things, work at things, get together and talk. We're pretty
Yes.
well into the same situation.
I would say that in this case, we are moving the public hearings later in January. So effectively, we've got more like, not necessarily 2 full months, but more than we would usually require. So in this case, being the 1st of December and going to the 20th of January, again, appreciating we're not trying to hold as many applications back to move them forward, but have a respectful amount of time for citizens to kind of digest what's being going forward. We felt that the 7-week turnaround time was acceptable. In this case, yeah.
7 weeks from what it was
Yeah, that's so from
before.
today. Yeah, today until January 20th.
But before, you're given 7 weeks to this one prior to that, it would be, or any other? project?
Typically, it would be almost a month from when, depending on when the public meetings sit. So if we were to come in February, and then we would go again in March. In this case, we do have, I'd say, another 2 or 3 weeks' time that we normally would not have if we didn't take this approach to extend. So we will be missing that one public meeting, pushing those public hearings, and for the next file as well, to the 20th of January.
I'm glad you guys took that into
Yeah,
account.
thanks.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup. There are no other questions. We will go to the vote, which is electronic. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Your worship, next is an introduction to Station Yards Master Plan and Rezoning, and I see that Josh is at the podium again.
A few more bells and whistles to this one. So this is, I guess, to provide the context, this is an application that we have been working on off and on, especially with this property, a lot of the people in this room as well, dating back to 2021. And it's with respect to the Shanx Master Plan area. So council will be familiar that the nursing home has come through. There's been a lot of development and a lot of interest in this area. So knowing that in terms of what is proposed and what I'll be going through here today, there's been, I guess, a lot of thought and effort from both sides, from Shanx and from administration standpoint, to get it to the final product that has been brought to you today. Lots of iteration and lots of let's call it person hours that have been applied to this file, but justifiably so because it is a big project. So the application is to rezone the mentioned PID from a combination of R3, being the multiple unit dwelling zone, and SC, suburban commercial, to R3 PS, which is the post-secondary zone, and the P1, which is a community use zone. And the reason for this is that this application will accommodate a master plan for the plus or minus 80-acre property. And as I mentioned before, the applicant is Shanx Development Limited. So this area is located within Ward 3, north of the Pinehurst neighborhood and bordered by Wheeler Boulevard, with Mountain Road to the east. So here you can see it's quite an irregular situation where we have a large swath of land that is owned by one property owner, which again really helped in terms of streamlining the process, even though it did take a couple of years to get the final product that's before you today. So it's around 80 acres, which is a very rare amount of land, especially within the Wheeler Loop. There are few opportunities to accommodate density in the city in a strategic location with proximity to transit, with proximity to post-secondary schools. So that's, I guess, in some respects, as Bill used to call it, kind of a crown jewel that was waiting to be developed in the past. And again, the rezoning and what's being proposed, and we'll walk through the various approaches and schedules that we're including as part of this process. You'll see that the mapping to the furthest to the right is what is proposed. And just to touch on the post-secondary zone, as part of the infrastructure project that was taken to create the Mountain Road Worthington connection with that roundabout, a certain portion of land was allocated or will be given to NBCC to accommodate parking that was lost as part of that project. So that's why you see that little sliver of blue in that southeast corner, and that's to kind of save planners some grief about parking across two different zones in the future. So this is the master plan here. There's some more specific maps that I'll be getting into that kind of outline what is intended. But generally speaking, you'll see the existing Pinehurst neighborhood to the south, and you'll see lower density forms of housing on the south side of what is Worthington, which is that road that will be running from the east to the west, connecting to that arm of the roundabout. As you move further along to the east, you'll see some increase in density with respect to apartment buildings, different types of housing typology. And it's important to note here that this is not just rental housing. There is going to be opportunities for home ownership through the forms of townhouses, stacked townhouses, lower forms of, I guess, housing density. And with the idea of trying to encourage density where it will occur, furthest from the existing neighborhood. So there was a lot of thought and care put in mind to how that was being laid out. And to the west, you'll see that street network where the existing, I believe it's Cardigan Lane, extends To the west, we'll show a slide on that later, but that is where the Shanex campus plan is intended to continue. So that would be development that Shanex is planning to undertake, and the balance of the lands would then be effectively put out to market to develop with some guidance from Shanex in terms of what their expectations are for the land as the landowner and potential seller. So in terms of figuring out how we're going to be able to accommodate this development, a lot of thought and time was put into the road network. Lots of examples of different iterations that we've seen over the years, and this is one ultimately that administration felt comfortable bringing forward. So you can see that roundabout network in blue. That roundabout is largely in place, and I have some nice aerials that I'll bring to the public hearing that Renee was kind enough to send to me today. But essentially we have a looped road network where you'll see the continuation of Ayr, where Ayr Avenue is extended to the southern arm of the roundabout through to Cardigan Lane. Again, that being the main focus of the road network, with future connections to what is now, I believe, Batasur Street to the north, which was the former Ryan extension, that at the right time, when development warrants, may see an upgrade to become a right-in and right-out at Mountain Road, not forecasted within the first phases of plans, but something that we have conditioned and are working towards as this area develop, should it be approved. You'll see again where the density takes place further to the north is bounded by that road, and I'll talk about those separations of areas on one of my future slides here. A big discussion as well, and working hard with colleagues in Recreation and Parks, was the LFPP. So we know that there's going to be a high unit count in this area, so making sure that the land for public purposes was well allocated and has a strong purpose was something that we really worked hard on to make sure that the residents within this area and the area to the south would ultimately see a benefit. So that area that is highlighted in green will provide that pedestrian connection through trail network and other forms of amenity through to the north, where we have worked on securing a large parcel, it's around 3.5 to 4 acres, that could accommodate a future municipal facility. In terms of what that may be, it has a lot of potential. Not to say we're not deciding on anything today, but allocating that space is really important because it will be a main feature of this subdivision, which is being called, if I haven't mentioned it already, Station Yards. So you'll see that larger block to the north with frontage to what is the Batasur Street, again, which will be a very focal point and a significant piece of land with respect to how the community can function in the master plan area. So in order to I guess, navigate these current zoning rules and to navigate the potential for development while considering the existing uses and existing neighborhood around. We've worked on a height district map. So you'll see here, again, this is what is permitted to occur, or this is what may occur. It's not to say that the buildings will necessarily be this high, but the way that the plan has been drawn from a servicing perspective and from a traffic perspective is it could be built to this extent. So as you see for the southern side of Worthington, you'll see sort of that 3-story, 4-story development moving forward across the street, getting to a slightly higher density between 4 to 6 stories. And then as you're getting to the further to the north, the area that's identified as the high street of the plan, it won't be called High Street, but the high street of the development that's where we're looking for our most significant density. And this is something that's going to be taking place not in the near future, potentially the 5 to 10 to 15 year range. And we're looking at developments that will be fronting onto the LFPP, looking over the parkland area to the tune of some buildings may have the ability to be built up to 18 stories. So you'll see there that density, again, with thought in mind, was allocated to kind of create space between the existing neighborhoods and what ultimately will be located hugging that Ryan and Wheeler Boulevard area. So we're ranging from 12 to 15 to 18 stories, and we'll have mapping set up to ensure that those developments, if they do come, that they comply with the height precinct that has been established, and this would be a condition and included within a rezoning approval. So in terms of the development sections, The Shanix campus is well underway today. And as you can see on the western side of the plan, there is continued development anticipated with approximately 1,200 units that will be located in that area. Again, consisting of lifestyle homes and a potential extension or continuation of the nursing home. And I believe the team from Shanix will also be here at the public hearing to discuss their plans more directly on with respect to what they anticipate to occur here. The second and the area that would be likely to begin from a private development perspective would be the neighborhood section, which is located to the east and bordered with that red hashed line. So that is the area that I believe Shanix will be looking to undertake in the nearer future, especially where that Worthington connection will be made to the roundabout, effectively making those areas open for development. Again, that area is looking around, I believe, 1,400 units. In my staff report, it identifies the numbers. Again, as an anticipation, because this is a master plan, it may not achieve the full amount, but again, it's just providing a general target of what could be accommodated there with respect to the servicing and the traffic studies that were submitted. And finally, the higher density section, that's where we're going to see the balance of the units, approximately 2,400 units that could occur in that area in terms of their development in larger format buildings where we will see podium designs with towers. And we've created a bevy of conditions. And I know Shelley asked me not to read them all because there are 41, but there are a lot of design conditions that currently don't exist in the R3 zone with zoning bylaw today. So we've taken it upon ourselves to ensure that the right standards are put in place so that if these buildings are built to that scale, that they are well designed and well thought of with respect to materials, how they interact with pedestrian connections, and to LFPP, to the street, and really a neighborhood that is designed with people in mind. Just to touch on the new infrastructure, seems like a long time ago that this development charge bylaw got brought forward to council. And the good news is that I believe a lot of this construction is completed, and Renee will probably be able, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions on traffic, to talk around what the latest with this is. But the aerial shows, again, that parking area that has been reallocated to MBCC. Shanix has paid its development charges in full, and again, that work continues to a finalization of this project, and the city as well through I believe through its budget and through Housing Accelerator Fund has made pretty substantial contributions to creating this road, which will ultimately enable this development. So a lot of work, and kudos to engineering and everyone in the team involved to get this off the ground, because this was the major piece that was needed in order to get this area, which forever kind of sat dormant, to kick off. And if it wasn't for the development charge bylaw and this, I guess, approach, then we may not be here with this master plan today. So this is not my work. It's really nice, and Shanix had put this together and sent it through, and I thought it would be important for the public and for council to see this as part of the package. Again, with the branding on station yards, in terms of the forms of housing and what they can expect from a visual perspective in this area. So I won't get too far into it because I guess it's not my work, but I did think it was very important to show, again, that phase one and ultimately how it's laid out. You can see the LFPP through there, a combination of public and some private streets that will be located into and around the LFPP, and how it all ties in with that major infrastructure project that I was referring to. Again, a lot of work put in amongst everybody at the city and in the Shanix team to ensure that we've got our connected parkways, an active lifestyle, as I mentioned, community orientated, a lot of thoughtful design, and really an area that we're anticipating that more people, as the city continues to develop, we'll see more people walking, more pedestrian oriented, bikes, that type of thing, because there is so many things that are accessible to that area along the Mountain Road corridor that there are an anticipated future reliance on independent vehicles, again, as this area develops out over that 10 to 15 year period. In showing some renderings and some concepts and some work that I guess in some other buildings too that Shanix has constructed, and what they're anticipating with respect to their lands and how they will interact with what will eventually become the land for public purposes. There are going to be covenants, there are going to be some strict guidelines that are going to be imposed by Shannex with respect to design, so they're really going above and beyond what is required in the zoning bylaw, not something that I myself can mandate as a planner, but it is something that they are going to be tying into their development as they work with the development community that have an interest in developing in this area. And again, tied in with our urban growth strategy, we have identified a significant amount of growth within the brownfield or expanding infill areas, and this area can accommodate a substantial amount of that development. So from a strategic urban growth strategy perspective, this master plan ticks a lot of boxes. I'm sure there is going to be a lot of questions and a lot of work to navigate as we go through the public process. But as I mentioned previously, there are very few opportunities for the city to capitalize on well strategically placed land to really increase the growth numbers that we're trying to accommodate, especially in infill areas and especially within an area you'll hear me talking about a lot is that Wheeler Loop. Within Wheeler, there are very few opportunities that are located where we can work with one landowner to put together a puzzle piece, whereas to deal with 6 or 7 landowners of a similar size is not always as straightforward an exercise. So again, really tying in well with our targets and what we've said we wanted to do through that urban growth strategy policy document. Here we go. So, all of which to say that administration recommends that Moncton City Council proceed with proposed zoning bylaw amendment Z-22.54 by giving first reading of the bylaw, referring the bylaw to Planning Advisory Committee for its written views, and setting a public hearing, so that's a typo. The public hearing will be on January 19th, 2026, similar to the previous applications. Apologies for that. It's correct on the French side. And we'll touch on the conditions. We have a number of general conditions. I can dive into some specific ones if we need to, but a lot of them are designed around the size of lot sizes, what is going to be permitted, and as I mentioned, the design standards for the range of housing typologies that will be included, including the site massing, standards for multiple unit dwellings, podium and street wall designs. As I mentioned, there are 41 conditions, but with a project of this size, we really wanted to make sure we had all of our bases covered from a planning and development perspective, and we feel even though there are 41, that we've done a good job on that. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions. Thank you for your time.
Merci, Josh. A beautiful project. Conseiller Butler, do you wish to move the motion? You do. Conseiller Steves, you will second. Don't go ahead, Conseiller Butler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Josh. I have a couple things with the changes. There's been some changes, I think, if you remember, that when the Shannex Group met with the neighborhood up there. So how many changes has there been since that meeting and now with the neighborhood? What are they going to see for changes?
I wasn't at that meeting. My understanding was that meeting took place when the subdivision was going through, and there was some conversations around the trail network and how it was going to be laid out. I think I don't believe that there was much discussion at that time around the density and the overall housing yield. But my understanding was that because we were dealing with LFPP and that was what that subdivision was for, that was the main focus of conversation with the residents at the time. So I would say that the LFPP that was originally contemplated, the residents were looking for a potential ring LFPP around the property. The LFPP that we've sort of settled on with respect to our recommendation is a more centralized LFPP that has access to and from buildings that we feel will have a greater deal of usability than what was originally discussed. But what I can do is make a note and ask the team at Shannex who hosted that meeting to kind of touch on what was and what is now, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think should be, and I think that maybe whoever has been there, we should have a file on it here. So I guess maybe I could probably go through back my own, but I see.
Yeah, I can certainly look. I'm assuming Bill and Gordy Locke were probably a part of those, and I can give Gordy a call and see what he remembers. But no, that won't be any trouble. And I'm sure Shannex has something on their file as well.
And the other thing is that I see that we went with the trails, and now we're down to, I think it's 3.5 acres at the very end. Therefore, the
total LFPP meets the requirement. It's the so at at 80 acres, we're looking at approximately 8 acres of LFPP. It was that creation of that block at 3.5 acres, with the remaining to be sort of that trail access transit. So it meets the total 10% requirement that would be required through subdivision.
Yeah, I think though, if I remember back, and I was just looking at my notes over the weekend, I'll look closer, and I'll maybe even look and see if we can get the recording of that meeting. But I'm quite sure that council gave you direction, or planning direction, that we wanted to keep the full acreage down in that area. We did not want to break it up a little bit here, a little bit there. We wanted to hold the whole grass area down in that corner. So I'm almost, well, in my notes, it says that that's the direction we.
Yeah, my recollection was that we would allocate a block that would be similar to what we have for the Crosman Center, with the active connections to and from. So it was that block. I mean, I may be wrong, but my understanding was that it was a block that would be not dissimilar from the size of the Crosman Center, which is about 3 acres, and ultimately creating that LFPP connection, which will get residents to and from, but also for them to enjoy and connect down to the Elmhurst Park.
Well, I agree. So I realize that was the same, certainly not trying to be disrespectful, but that was the same opinion you had back when you brought it forward that time. And after council spoke, I believe that we said, listen, we wanted that full acreage in case we wanted to put a complex there.
Yeah, and you still can with the acreage that is
3.5
provided.
acres. Well, anyway, I'll certainly be bringing that up at the next one, but I will certainly go through my notes. I'd appreciate if planning would go through their notes regards to what direction council had given at the time. And then I wouldn't want to put a wrench into it, but we can maybe work something out, but I'm almost sure that we gave direction to that. I'll leave it at that for now, Your Worship. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Butler, Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Merci beaucoup, Josh. Just one question. The emergency access, behind Canadian Tire access.
Yes.
What will that look like? Will it change? Will there be an extension of that former Ryan?
Bâtisseur Street? I think that they've renamed it to Bâtisseur Street, or the Ryan extension, just to the north.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we've put in a condition with Shanex that once the development warrants that upgrade, because there are going to be some wastewater upgrades that Shanex will have to undertake to accommodate the development, that street, which is an emergency access, as you mentioned, would be upgraded back to a city standard and would ultimately provide frontage to the future community center facility that would front Bâtisseur. So it's not something that needs to happen in the immediate future, so they could begin developing that neighborhood section that I referred to, but as we get to a certain point, that upgrade will then be coming to a full upgrade of Bâtisseur Street with a proposed right in and right out to mitigate the amount of left turns on Mountain Road. Something that we'll be planning for in the future, and we've conditioned it to the effect that when those things happen, we will enter to an agreement with Shanex, the landowner, to ensure that those things are happening and that the costs are adequately proportioned between the city and the developer.
And on the other end, will it be a dead end, or will it connect to Souvenir or Cardigan? Or?
It will connect to Cardigan, yes, yeah, and there's all the future plans as well, just who would know, but the future potential pedestrian connection that could come over top of Wheeler would interact with that general area, again, bringing us to that area of LFPP. So those things were accounted for as we were sort of working through that LFPP allocation and making sure that we weren't kind of stepping on the toes of any other things that we have envisioned for that area.
And my last comment, I mean, it's going to go to public hearing and come back and everything else, but often, and we don't have that much of a choice from a city's perspective, and we're looking at that at the Planning Commission, but we're sometimes given the runt of the litter of lots for public purposes under power lines or in the corner where there's, a little pond or something. So it's very expensive to transform into usable land for public purposes.
Yeah.
Can this be looked at since it's all virgin forest?
Oh, it has been. So again, that central park type feel was why we ended up with the LFPP kind of allocation as we had it. There were a few different iterations, and I think to your point, there's been a lot of effort put in when big files come through to make sure that the LFPP really is for public purpose. And I would say this is going going to be kind of the central corridor that's going to run a north-south spine from the existing neighborhood to the north, and has been kind of strategically done so that the most public benefit can be yielded from the development. Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion on that, and I think took some grinding, but we certainly got there in the end, I think, with the final product.
Merci beaucoup. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci, conseiller Bourgeois. Conseiller Steves.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Josh, this is a huge project, of course, and with the shopping center so close, incredible, as you said. In meetings with residents, Councillor Butler and I, one of the questions that keep coming up is the pedestrian footpath that you just very briefly mentioned. I wonder if we can dig into that a little bit more. Whose responsibility would that be, and would you foresee it going over or under Wheeler Boulevard?
My understanding is that it's a project that's sort of still somewhat in the long term, but I would assume that the more development that takes place on that side would probably mean that it would be warranted sooner than later. My understanding is that for safety reasons that it would be an overhead type pass versus underground, because underground can get maybe not perceived to be unsafe, or people may not want to use it. So my understanding is that pedway would be over top of Wheeler Boulevard, but I would not have a timeline, but we can certainly look into forecasted when that may occur. But I would say that the development as it continues would probably be one of the bigger triggers for that to happen sooner than later.
And whose responsibility would it be to pay for that?
My understanding is it would be a city-led project, yeah. Potentially with funding from other partners. If there's funding at the federal or provincial level, that would probably be how the cookie would be cut there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Steves. If there are no other questions, we will go to an electronic vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Merci.
The next item is 7.3. It's a subdivision agreement, AE Bro subdivision plan in cash and lieu, and I see Paul Edgar heading to the microphone.
Bonsoir, Paul.
Bonsoir. He's tall.
Can we bring up the presentation, please? Thank you.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of Council. Administration has received a subdivision application on behalf of FCL Financial Services Limited. The proposed subdivision is located in Ward 3, and as can be seen by the red outline on the map, it is in the northeast corner of Charles Lutz Road and Willow Street, adjacent to Crystal Springs subdivision. The purpose of the tentative plan is to create lots 2501 and 2502 for residential development. In consultation with the Recreation Department, it was determined that land for public purposes were not required from this property. The Community Planning Act and subdivision bylaw therefore allow for the city to take 8% of the value of the land as a cash in lieu payment. So administration recommends that Moncton City Council require cash in lieu of land for public purposes in the amount of $7,520 for the AE Bro subdivision. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Butler and Conseiller Steves? Any questions? I don't see any questions, so we will go to electronic vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Merci.
The next item is statements of members of council. Les exposés des membres du conseil.
Conseiller Crossman.
Thank you, Your Worship. On November the 26th, I attended the public meeting for the CRPA, Kodiak Regional Policing Authority. The presentation was done by a group called Enough is Enough, was very informative and interesting. So I'm going to make the ask today that our city manager, or Mr. CAO, that you reach out to Enough is Enough and have them present to Moncton City Council. Good, thank you. Another matter, thank you to all the senior citizens that came out for the senior social held on November the 28th at Centennial Regional Lodge, Rotary Lodge. Special thanks to Ellen, who's not in the room, unfortunately, Isabel, who was in the room but left, as well as Monica, who attended the event, as well as special thank you to Your Worship, Councillor Theriault, Councillor Butler, as well as Councillor Bourgeois for attending. The seniors were extremely grateful and had a great afternoon, and I wish them, as well as everyone did, a very Merry Christmas. So thank you, Your Worship.
Merci, Conseiller Crossman. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la Maire. A few weeks ago, 2 citizens asked that I speak in English more often during our public council meetings. 2 months before, an Acadian couple asked me to speak in French more often during our public meetings. Since I was first elected in 2008, I have tried to ask my questions and make my statements 50-50. I don't count the seconds or words I use, but I believe that I've respected that 50-50 split. I could speak entirely in French or in English because the city must provide translation so that our councillors, staff, and citizens can use whichever of our 2 official languages they prefer, including council deliberations. La traduction est fournie dans cette chambre, ainsi que lors de la télédiffusion sur Rogers. Il faut choisir le canal français ou anglais. Même chose pour YouTube, on peut choisir la langue. Cependant, il y a un pépin dans le système. Les 2 citoyens anglophones qui m'ont demandé de parler en anglais plus souvent écoutent nos réunions sur YouTube parce qu'ils n'ont pas accès à Rogers. Au lieu d'écouter YouTube en anglais, ils écoutent nos réunions sur YouTube Raw. Cru, je sais pas, qui ne fournit aucune traduction. So if the 2 gentlemen are presently listening to YouTube Raw, there's a way to switch from YouTube Raw to YouTube English. Maybe staff could put something online to help them maneuver the YouTube channel. Mais je vais demander à notre comité de révision sur la politique de bilinguisme, établi par la maire récemment, d'explorer des solutions et assurer la traduction à YouTube ou régler ce pépin-là qui peut empêcher certains de nos citoyens à apprécier nos réunions dans la langue de leur choix. Je vais aussi demander au comité d'explorer comment assurer la traduction durant toutes nos réunions pour assurer aux membres du conseil le choix de s'exprimer dans leur langue. Trop souvent, je suis obligé de m'exprimer en anglais parce que la traduction n'est pas disponible. En fait, je n'ai pas besoin de traduction, mais je le demande pour mes collègues unilingues qui me demandent parfois de parler en anglais. On est proche de l'égalité. On va y arriver, j'en suis convaincu. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. Any other comments? No. Merci, Madame Lagraffière.
Next are recommendations from a special private meeting of November 24th, 2025. Moncton City Council at a special private meeting of November 24th, 2025 reports that the agenda of the private meeting of that date was adopted and recommends the following: that Moncton City Council approve the city's offer as submitted to the CUPE Local 5-1 negotiating team subject to the approval of their membership, and that the city's offer be incorporated into a collective agreement from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028, and further, that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to execute all necessary documents and affix the corporate seal of the city thereto. The backgrounder on this item is the Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE Local 5-1, represents outside workers, truck drivers, laborers, mechanics, recreations, operations staff, and rink attendants. 32 meetings have occurred since 2024 as their contract expired on December 31st, 2024. The new agreement offers CUPE Local 5-1 wage increases of 13.5% over 4 years. The CUPE Local 51 membership voted in favor of the new collective agreement on November 26, 2025.
Merci, Madame Lagraffière. Conseiller Léjean, do you wish to move the recommendation? And could I have a Conseiller Richard? Oh, merci. Before we go to questions, we'll go to questions. Any questions from anyone? No? Je n'ai pas vu là. Conseiller Léjean, allez-y.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. Just want to publicly say thank you to the team that was part of those negotiations. There's certainly a lot of discussions back and forth, and certainly I'm pleased to see that we reach contract negotiations that are fruitful. And so I want to thank everyone, thank CUPE for their bargaining as well. So, merci.
Merci beaucoup. We will go to the vote, electronic vote. Motion carried unanimously. Merci. Thank you. I also want to mention that the CUPE Local 51 bargaining team is here this evening. Michel Primo, Matt Simpson, Jeremy Nash. Thank you for being here this evening. It's really appreciated. Thank you very much. Merci. Madame Lagreffière.
Okay, next we're going into reports from administration, les rapports de l'administration. First is a public hearing for the BIA. It's important to note that there was no objections that have been received. The motion that's before council is that City Council approve the Downtown Moncton Centre-Ville Inc. proposed levy for the 2026 year in the amount of $971,710. This, that the proposed budget, when published, established the special levy rate for 2026 at 16 cents per $100 of assessment based on projected data from 2025 assessments, and that Moncton City Council give second and third readings to the bylaw A 1002.25.
Merci, Madame Lagreffière. This is new for me. I've never done this one before, so I hope, bear with me, please. So I need we don't move the motion on
No, we're in the public hearing stage.
the public hearing. So
If there are any objectors in the
is there any
room?
objectors in the room? There are none. So we will go to the proponents. Is there anyone here from? No, there is no one here, so we will, no.
No, you're going to
Come on.
close the public hearing.
I will now close the public hearing. So we will go to questions from council. Come on.
They can't be online.
Qu'est-ce qu'on fait maintenant? On passe au vote?
On va demander pour notre quelqu'un pour il y a des questions, mais on peut faire la motion. Tu vas demander pour un mover and a seconder.
So I need a mover and a seconder for this. So Conseil Léger, Conseil Leblanc, merci.
Now you ask the questions.
So are there any questions on this? There are no questions? Then we will go to the vote, which is electronic. Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
10.2 is a public hearing for stop-up and close of Duke Street. There were no objections that were received. The motion that's before council, that following public hearing, Moncton City Council give second and third reading to bylaw T 221.7, being bylaw and amendment of the stop-up and close bylaw of roads within the city of Moncton. And I see that Keisha is here if council has any questions.
Are there any questions from members of council? Councillor, comment? J'ai perdu.
Yes.
Okay. So anyone objecting to this? No? The proponents? I don't see any. So we will now close the public hearing.
Mover and a seconder.
And I need a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Crossman, Conseiller Kingston. Merci. So, any question? Est-ce qu'il y a des questions? Do we go to the vote? We will go to the vote. perdu.
Okay, next is a pickleball feasible report, and I believe that Isabella Blanc is going to introduce this topic.
Thank you. So as council might recall, in 2023, we adopted the Recreation Master Plan Phase 2 Facilities and Programs. Within that plan, as it relates to pickleball, it identified that we currently have 13 pickleball courts in Moncton, of which 6 are dedicated courts, and the rest offer limited dedicated pickleball hours. So a follow-up to that is that it also highlighted the need to bring that number up from 6 dedicated courts to 12 dedicated courts by 2032. So in a few years from now, there will be a broad range for more pickleball courts here in Moncton, dedicated that is. So in order to help us out, pickleball is a relatively new sport in our community, and so we requested a feasibility study to help us identify some current and future needs, outlined some facility infrastructure that will be required in the future, and just help guide some of the decisions that we'll be making in the next few years. So with us, we have from Quantum Recreation, we have Jason Simituk and Lana Williams, who are going to share the results of that feasibility study, and they will be open to some questions. Following that, Monica Tucker is also here, the manager of Recreation.
Thank you very much. So yes, so I'll be presenting today on the City of Moncton, the feasibility study for a pickleball facility. So the team was comprised of 4 different members. So you have myself, you have Jeremiah, and you have Gary from Quantum Recreation. And then the actual architecture side, we teamed up with Stantec, and Lana's behind me to answer any of the architectural questions. The goal of Quantum Recreation on this piece was to do more the feasibility, the budgeting, the community engagement pieces, what we were working on. And then Stantec was able to take all that great information and put it into some feasibility options for you for drawings. So the project, so the project was based on 4 different phases. So the first little phase was project kickoff and research. We were able to do key stakeholder input and public input, where we went out to pickleball. We interviewed many different community organizations in the Moncton area. Then we went and did a draft of the study, and that's where we're kind of at today, is also completing the presentation of the final study today. So a couple key things that we were able to do for engagement. We were able to do stakeholder mapping. So what we were able to do is look around the community to find out potential users and partners for this type of facility. We were able to showcase the other opportunities that are for pickleball in the region. We did an online survey that was completed by 2 different groups. It was done by the City of Moncton. We also looked at the same survey that was put through pickleball through their own survey platform. We did some city staff meetings, we did some interviews with the line groups, and we completed the open house with them as well to get their feedback on kind of what they were looking for in a new pickleball facility. So going over the community, the engagement, and the needs assessment and community engagement. So right now what we realize the current situation for pickleball in Moncton is the fact of the matter is that the pickleball group, Pickleball Moncton, is in a lease at Curl Moncton, and it's set to expire in 2026. So that is one of the main concerns that was found, a constraint for this report. This offers continued access, but could lead to an oversupply if additional pickleball courts were actually constructed, because right now you have 6 in the Curl Moncton space. If that wasn't reverted back to curling, then they would have multiple pickleball courts that would lead to an oversupply. The current courts are being viewed as being underutilized, and pickleball is growing about 1,000 participants per year based on Pickleball New Brunswick. So that's in the whole province. They're saying you're getting new members of pickleball that are playing at that 1,000 people per year. The community engagement findings when we did the survey and also the open house, we found that 96% of the participants in the surveys thought that they were interested in new facilities to be built. 85% support municipal investment. Of course, that's what happens when you do these surveys. They want the municipality to put the dollars behind it. 86% of the participants find that $1 to $50 annual tax increase is reasonable. The interesting thing is that we had 141 respondents from the City of Moncton surveys, the one that was actually posted on the City of Moncton engagement platform. They did another survey because Pickleball Moncton felt there was concerns. They did their own survey and they received 153. The interesting thing was with both surveys, they mirrored each other's results. So unfortunately what that could mean is the same 141 people that filled out the city survey could have filled out the same one at the Pickleball Moncton one. But if they felt it was different to help appease Pickleball Moncton, the interesting thing is that the results were within a little bit of margin of error. The other thing we end up finding out, the peak demand occurs are during the evenings and late mornings. So it's matching the same type of demand you see for an arena or those type of facilities that people want to use it for prime time hours. So prime time hours are normally those hours between 6 and 9 or 5 and 8 are those prime time hours that people really want to use a facility. When we went to public to ask questions about what they would like to see in a new facility, they came up with things like they want better change rooms, they want better lockers, they want a licensed lounge. Currently, there's an interesting agreement between Curl Moncton and Pickleball Moncton. They're looking for viewing areas, they're looking for spectator stands, good sport flooring, and year-round use. So one of the things with pickleball, if anyone's ever played, if you play outside, you know how the wind can be a little bit of an issue. Indoor facilities make it a more prime availability because you can control the climate, not only wind, weather, all the rest of the fun, but it gives you more ability to play a better pickleball game and become a better pickleball player. Some of the big opportunities we found is that there's strong community demand. Pickleball is a sport that in any municipality right now is probably a hot topic. Everyone's very excited for pickleball. People of an upper age limit are playing pickleball. You see big growth in people that haven't been active in many years coming to become active because of pickleball. It also has the strong community demand of also the idea of a community. A lot of pickleball players like playing it because there's a community around them. They can chat with their friends, they make new friends, it's very easy to find that. The other thing that's happening with pickleball right now is you're finding a lot of sport tourism opportunities. So what sport tourism is when people want to travel to play in tournaments. So you'll see people that will be more than happy to spend money to fly to a new place to play new pickleball people, and they'll be paying for those type of opportunities. So you have that ability to work on some sport tourism with pickleball. The other key thing is when we were reaching out to different community groups, there was a potential partnership with Tennis Moncton and the Boys and Girls Club. One of the interesting things with these type of facilities is that, again, prime time use of only evenings or prime time use of only mornings, finding space that can be utilized for the full opportunities of the day, looking to team them up with other different users, like, for example, the Boys and Girls Club that use it up until about 5 p.m. Then, of course, we've learned that prime time use is 5 or 6. Then you have the ability of actually stretching out and utilizing a space for a lot more hours than what's currently being used for. Some of the constraints that Moncton has for pickleball or any type of recreation facility right now is you're limited by the urban land availability. The construction costs are quite expensive to do any sort of workout in New Brunswick. Operational capacity as well. You don't have many operational staff able to do this. Right now, with the current membership model that they have at Pickleball Moncton, it's a constraint for the rest of the community. To have a high entry point to get into pickleball is a constraint to build current pickleball players. We know right now that, of course, grant money is very limited. It's very difficult to get for recreation opportunities, especially with all the other people and other organizations looking for grant money. And right now, if you could snap your fingers and get another pickleball facility of this size, you may have a risk of too many pickleball courts if you build another secondary facility. So looking at utilization, so utilization is a really important metric to look at when you're dealing with any type of recreation opportunity. So for this study, our methodology was using prime time of basically 5 to 10 p.m., non-prime time from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and total time is 7 till 10 p.m., so 15 hours a day it's going to be running. So if you end up looking at pickleball, is interesting, they don't just talk about hours, they talk about sessions. Pickleball Moncton uses an idea of having a 2-hour session. Thank you for moving that TV, or the piece, now I can see everything. Pickleball Moncton uses a 2-hour session per day. Many municipalities use 1 to 1.5 hours. So based on this study, we basically did a 2-hour session day to understand the current usage that they currently have. If you're able to basically utilize Play based on the current membership that we found was $385, it allows you to have over 3 sessions a week. So if we gave every one of those members 1 session of prime time and 2 hours of non-prime time, gave them 3 hours a week to play. Pickleball as a sport is mostly played basically doubles, so you have 4 people per court playing on the majority of times. So the interesting thing is that recommended use for competitive players, brought to you by Sport for Life, basically says you should be doing a maximum of, to be a competitive player, you should be doing 2 sessions a week or 3 hours a week for competitive players. So if you think about when you go out to utilize your, fun of hockey or whatever it is, it's normally 1 time a week. You're not looking at doing 2 to 3 times a week to do your recreation opportunities you end up having. That's all en français. For membership models, if you're looking around in the region right now, you have membership costs that are very affordable of $25, $26, $37. The reason why those are so affordable is that they charge you per time to play. So per session you're playing between $4 to $5 to play. 506 Pickleball and Pickleball Moncton utilize the model of an all-inclusive model that you can go play 7 days a week if you wanted to for that amount of dollars. 506 Pickleball shares their space also with the basketball. So they don't actually get the full amount of time that Pickleball Moncton does. Pickleball Moncton, you can go in there for the full 15 hours and hang out, play pickleball all day if you want to for $345 for 2026. To give an overview, we want to show sort of an understanding of what other facilities and costs around the country are going to be going for, to get you an understanding of kind of the difference in costs and kind of what's going out for pickleball right now in Canada. So London, Ontario has one being built right now, has 9 courts for $2.7 million. It's a full indoor facility, stick-built facility that you have. It has a lounge area and an area for doing sales of pickleball opportunities like rackets and balls and things. In Calgary, you have a massive facility being built. It's $15.6 million. That's why it's so large. And that is based on 13 oversized courts being put, stick-built. Quebec City has another one for 8 courts. That's $1.6 million dome structure. Edmonton has another one coming in at 19 courts for $4 to $5 million. The issue with this sort of environment scan of what's actually coming out there, the full contracting costs aren't there. These are just what's been quoted in news or council minutes that we could find. So moving to the kicker of the report and the recommendations that's coming through. So we basically have 4 different 4 different options that were coming with this report. One, of course, is status quo, and broken down this table. I'll go into more detail on them. But basically, status quo, capital cost is 0 because you're staying the same, your operating cost is going to be the same, and revenue is going to be the same. The revenue currently right now doesn't go to the city, it goes to Pickleball Moncton, and that's how the current model that Moncton operates in this sort of service delivery. Option B would be enhancing the current facility. So we go through some of the capital costs, and I'll go through that shortly, but the idea that the operating cost would be $194 and the revenue would be $200,000. So the idea is that we change the revenue model from a all-you-can-play to pay-to-play. Option 2 would be a new facility, and we're basically charging that about $8.3 million, and that'd be stick-built, and the operation costs would be $224, and the revenue would be $334. And the last one would be a dome facility, a little bit less for the dome facility at $5.7 million, a little bit less for operating costs and revenue. And we'll go over it later on in the presentation, but one of the issues with the dome is only meant for the wintertime, not for the summertime also. So you have to take down the dome every year. So status quo. So this is a picture of what status quo would look like, exactly the same as you see right now. So if you've never been to the pickleball facility, it's basically 6 courts. You enter in through Crow Moncton. They have a badge door that you're able to enter through, a magnetic door. So there isn't any physical staff to meet with. You basically push the button with your little pass, get in, and you can actually access the pickleball courts. So some of the key things with option 1A, the main recommendation that comes out of it, if you want to stay with status quo, is amend the agreement so the city acts as the leasee and holds the lease. Right now, the actual Curl Moncton holds the lease for the pickleball. So having that ability, having the city negotiate that, and instead of a third party negotiate that lease, will be beneficial for both clubs, because then you have the ability, the city has more control and understanding of what's going on, as opposed to having a third party operate that, who doesn't own the building. Option B would be enhancing the current facility. So with this, it would be the same layout you have right now. The only big difference you'd end up seeing is that you'd have upgrading to the current site. There we go, that's what I'm missing. You'd have a bunch of added opportunities to it. So what we'd be doing is adding better furniture, you'd be adding flooring for carpet, you'd be adding new paint, you'd be addressing some of the new change rooms in it. You'd be also adding HVAC. So that's one of the issues that's currently at the indoor facility right now. If you've ever gone to play, it's very hot and it's managed by fans. So again, having that ability to control the temperature in the area would be better for play. And also for ventilation, being with that many sweating people is not a great deal. Option 2 is for a new facility. So looking at this, again, having that lounge ability that people are asking for, having that access coming in, having a station for people to be greeted and have a staff member there, having lockers, storage for your stands that are sitting there for your optimization for sport viewing, those type of opportunities that would be there. We'd also be looking at actually increasing it to 10 courts, so additional 4 courts. The reason for this is that I would actually be able to build out, because we wouldn't be building this today. This would be building for tomorrow, so you have the ability of 4 additional courts to come on. The interesting thing is you end up looking at the middle section there with the red courts that are there. Those we meant for either keeping stands or removing the stands and having it for play for regular every day. The stands would be something for that sport tourism piece. So you have that sort of premier space that people now can potentially buy tickets, or they can watch that premier match that's going on using those stands, or you can leave the stands up to have people put their water bottles and hang out there instead of them hanging out in the lounge. But that was one of the key things that was mentioned. So some of the key things for option number 2. So having a purpose-built building with 10 courts, locker rooms, and also offices that were there. Estimated capital cost about $8.3 million. Estimated operating is about $224,000. And estimated revenue about $334,000. The reason you see this different, that there's actually a better cost recovery than most recreation centers, is because pickleball is one of those sports that's almost like golf. Golf is something you should be running at a very high cost recovery, if not a word we don't like saying, recreation of profit. But that's one of the things you end up looking at, something like pickleball. Some of the pros you end up having is that you have modern amenities, tournament capacity, more courts, sport tourism opportunities that we talked about earlier. So the main costs, or sorry, the cons is, of course, the cost that is to build a purpose-built building. Timeline, takes time to acquire land, also build a structure, and also no known site. So right now you don't have any land available for this to be built. Lastly, what happens to the old facility? So if you built this 10 and you had 6, that now gives you 16 courts, that's going to be oversupply. So with that, with only being currently not fully utilized, having additional 10 courts on top would actually take away from the current facility you have, and then we're not sure what to do with that facility. So looking at construction costs, again, for the 8.3, comes over everything from new concrete foundations, talking about all the finishes, talking about, all the mechanical that's required, and any of the site work that's there. And looking at the option number 3, the dome facility. So as you notice, this has a different design than a regular stick-built, because the thing is that the washrooms, staff areas, and storage services would actually stay up all, that'd be stick-built. So that's where you end up storing all your stuff. You also need a stick-built building for the exterior pad for mechanical units, or a fenced-off area for the mechanical units. Those are the units that basically power the air that goes inside the dome to inflate it, and plus all that heating and cooling that's required. The way you end up looking at this, same sort of setup. You basically have the courts, you have a lounge in the middle, and you basically have stands on the outside. So what ends up happening is you don't have that sort of optional moving of stands to make another court or another 2 courts. You have your lounge in the middle, which again is really great for you to hang out and see everyone that's playing, and also help with that social opportunity that you have. So again, an air-supported dome with 8 courts, lounge, washrooms, and storage. Estimated capital is 5.7. So again, it is less than doing stick-built, but you do lose that ability of having summertime use because those courts then become outdoor courts in the summer. Estimated operational costs about $222,000. Estimated revenue is $309,000. So the pros, you have shortened timeline, and you also have seasonal use. So we put that as a pro because it's kind of give or take. Costs, the annual construction and dismantling costs, because it has to be temporary to have a dome up. So you have those extra costs that are there. So again, looking at this, we're going to cover everything from foundations to the services to the finishes. All that is calculated in this 5.7. Now I open the floor to any questions.
Merci beaucoup, Jason. Conseiller Bourgeois, do you wish to move the recommendation?
Je vais vous expliquer mon dilemme, après ça, vous prendrez la décision.
Okay, I need a
Je
mover.
vais, ouais, ben, j'ai l'intention de faire une résolution, mais ça fera peut-être pas de bon sens avant de poser mes questions. Mais si vous insistez, je ferai la résolution qui est option 1A, mais pour 1 an, avec possibilité de renouveler pour une 2e année, si on n'a pas trouvé une solution à long terme.
Okay. Mais je pense qu'on va aller à la motion originale avant, puis tu amènes un amendement ou tu amènes une
Si
nouvelle...
je fais la proposition, c'est moi qui l'écris. Je ne suis pas obligé de respecter le mot pour mot ce que le personnel me demande.
Est-ce qu'on irait avec? Vas-y.
Ben, moi, je vais avec ce qui est là, modifié.
C'est beau. Merci.
La motion, je pense que la motion nous donne cette opportunité-là, parce que je pense que la motion nous envoie ou dit qu'on supporte option 1A et qu'on va revenir au Conseil avec with a draft agreement and implementation plan, including any financial and operational impacts. Alors, si tu aimerais additionner sur cette motion-là pour regarder à...
Moi, je suis pas convaincu encore, d'après ces documents-là, qu'on devrait le garder à Carl Moncton. OK? Et je pense qu'on devrait sérieusement, c'est pour ça que toutes mes questions qui vont suivre, là, I am underwhelmed by this report. On a un rapport qui nous dit essentiellement, c'est un sport en pleine croissance. C'est un sport qui va croître davantage dans le futur. Le rapport dit surtout parce que la population des aînés va augmenter. Un petit peu, l'argument, je trouve, qu'un peu bidon, là, pour dire que le pickleball, c'est surtout un sport pour les aînés. Moi, j'ai vu des compétitions nationales et internationales de pickleball, c'est compétitif en moutadi. C'est un véhicule sportif aussi compétitif que hockey, que soccer, que tout. On aurait l'occasion de développer un hub du pickleball ici à Moncton pour attirer des tournois nationaux, provinciaux, etc. Alors, si c'est juste de le garder à Carl Moncton, je trouve qu'on nous ferme les œillères parce qu'on regarde 10 ans d'avance, là. Ce site, c'est une solution, d'après moi, qui sera bonne, très bonne pour 1 an. Je dirais, si on n'a pas pu trouver une solution d'ici 1 an pour le long terme, OK, on l'étendra pour une autre année. Je n'ai pas de problème en principe avec ça. Mais je crois qu'on se tire dans le pied si on pense que ça, c'est la solution à long terme. Ça fait, je vais répéter que cette résolution-là, telle qu'elle, n'est pas adéquate à mes yeux, puis je dirais, c'est juste l'affaire d'ajouter pour 1 an, avec possibilité d'une 2e année, au premier paragraphe, puis après ça, on continuera avec les détails puis mes autres questions, mais...
Donc, est-ce que tu veux relire la motion et
Oui.
puis on va...
Okay, that
voir si
Moncton
on
City
peut
Council
appuyer.
move forward with option 1A, same facility status quo of the pickleball feasibility study for one year, possibly 2 years. Whatever. Sounds good. Le deuxième, pour moi, ça va, là. Ça, c'est les détails de qu'est-ce que cette entente-là va comprendre pour 1 an ou 2 ans.
C'est bon, merci. Do I have a seconder for that?
Je pense qu'il y a peut-être, excuse-moi, je pense qu'il y a un morceau que j'ai oublié, je l'ai dit tantôt, mais dans la motion, et que le Conseil, d'ici la fin de ce bail-là, 1 an ou 2 ans, on ait un plan à long terme,
Oui.
plus ambitieux que les ajustements minuscules qu'on nous propose.
Est-ce que tu veux ajouter ça à la motion aussi?
Oui.
Donc, conseiller Richard, vous appuyez. So it's been moved and seconded. Are there questions? Je vois pas là. Isabelle, tu veux parler?
Non, je pense que ça va. Là. Je pense que ça a été clarifié. Désolée. Merci.
C'est beau. Conseiller Richard.
Je pense que le conseiller Bourgeois avait des questions.
Ça prend 5, là.
Non.
Veux-tu commence, puis moi, ça n'a pas de différence. J'ai 5 questions.
Donc, ben, divisez-les entre vous deux, OK? Chacun 2,5. Allez.
Je vais faire 2 commentaires en partant sans question. La première, c'est un des arguments en faveur de pickleball pour moi, c'est comment abordable que c'est. Les gens ont besoin d'une paire d'espadrilles, la plupart des personnes ont une espadrille, puis une palette. C'est tout. Ça fait, il devrait y avoir une considération, encore une fois, pour inclusion sociale. Comme quoi c'est un sport qui est très peu dispendieux. Deuxièmement, je suis déçu que dans les options, we have a report that gives us 4 options, 1A, 1B, 2, and 3, and yet in the council report form, we just have 1 option. Why, in the alternatives, does staff not present to us option 2, option 3, and 1B? It's okay if you want to recommend 1A, you always do the recommendation, but this should not have happened. I think, and I'll lead to my question, I think there's an opportunity here to think outside the box rather than the straightforward status quo versus new building, et cetera. Have we explored, this is my question, with MID, the possibility of finding either a real estate developer or somebody who would invest in building up, let's say, $4 million warehouse that could be used for the first 7, 8, 10 years, funded by Pickleball Moncton, lease, that would pay for that facility, so the city doesn't have to pay much. Have we explored that?
Isabelle.
So, Councillor, I think that our first step here is to get a sense of what the lay of the land is, which is what we have now. Our first priority is to make sure that Pickleball Moncton will be in play as of 2026. We don't want to break that, so that's our main focus. Once that is settled down, we are going to look at all options to see what's possible because we want to be able to meet our objective of 2032. So we're going to have to look at a variety of things. The city's responsibility is to make sure that we have community pickleball and inclusive, as you mentioned. Nothing precludes a private developer, private operator to open up a private facility. There are some in the region. Our focus will remain on the community aspect. We can do it in partnership with the club. We can do it, there are a variety of ways to do it. But I think today, this feasibility study gives us a guideline on which we can build over the next year or 2 years. And again, just our focus is to make sure that we have pickleball in 2026 to offer the community. And we'll be looking at the long term. That's absolutely part of our approach with pickleball in the city.
OK, j'allais en faire une suggestion, mais avant de le faire, je vois que le président de Pickleball Moncton ici, M. Briveau, est-ce que vous pourriez venir au micro? Et je vous pose la question. Qu'est-ce que vous pensez de l'idée qu'on accepte la résolution, là, d'aller avec une entente avec Curl Moncton pour 1 an, peut-être 2 ans, mais que d'ici ce temps-là, on trouve une facilité nouvelle ou refaite en quelque part rénover ou même de trouver une possibilité avec un développeur qui voudrait bâtir un entrepôt pour 7, 8, 10 ans avec Pickleball Moncton pour rentabiliser son investissement.
Merci pour la question et merci, Conseil, de nous inviter ici. Je vais vous répondre en anglais. So, to answer your first question about what do we think of the motion as it was originally stated or modified is of utmost importance for us. We can't look at the future if we don't have a club in May. We do have a lease that's due in May, and we have two single-year options after that. So we do have two options. The problem is that we don't really control our fate. We can leave within a 3 months' notice. The curling club could get rid of us in 3 months' notice. So it's been a good partnership as far as we're concerned. I also want to highlight that staff has been great through Isabel, Jonathan, and Monica, and previously as well. Been super supportive. The fact that we're doing a feasibility study is proof on its own that pickleball is a growth. I do want to highlight a few things to answer your question, though, is that when we were down on memberships because we were between general managers and deciding whether we wanted to hire general manager. We have a full-time general manager now, well-paid, works days and nights. We had, at the time, probably 75 members short. We are at 400 members. We will be at 450 members at the end of at the end of January. Our waiting list is 600 people strong. So our capacity come mid-January will be very difficult to add new members. And we're getting 10 or 15 people per week added to our membership. Adding to our waiting list, sorry. So when we talk about the sport's growing, well, when I first came here a few years ago, there was 900,000 people playing pickleball, and now there's, well over 1.9 or whatever. So to your other questions, are there other options? There's always other options. And I think that's what staff's looking for today from council, is to buy us some time to look at those types of options. So yes, a lease option is something that I've looked at. I know there's land available out there. There's developers that would be willing to do that. There's a potential building in Dieppe on a private sector. That model, I just got back from Victoria, London, Ontario. I've traveled the country going to various clubs and different models, and there's some models that are, like for instance, I'll give you an example. There's a club here recently opened in Moncton, maybe in our capital city, that are looking for $78 a month and $900 plus $60 every time you want to play. So, there'd be a lot of people that wouldn't be able to afford that. So we like the all-inclusive membership idea. We limit how many times you can play a week in prime time and so on and so forth. The challenge of having a facility is that we recognize that we're looking at a dedicated facility for one sport. And so we're not here asking for $7.2 million. Like, that's ridiculous. I sat in those chairs, and I know that I would never ask council for $7.2 million. But there's a way of having a facility that's bare bone. Our memberships and clubs across the country aren't looking for lounges and bars and so on and so forth. They'd like to have those. I'd like to have lots of things, but they want to play pickleball on a court that's the right size. For the most part, they go and they play. Squash is the same idea. I think it's only slow pitch baseball that we get together in the back of the truck and have a beer after the game. So other than that, people just want to be active. I also want to address our demographic for 2 seconds. Our demographic is getting younger and younger. The best players in the world are in their early 20s. It's getting younger and younger. I'm working with the school district right now to be in the schools. We're training phys ed teachers at our club. We're working with various groups across the regions to help build their clubs. So we're looking at having leagues within the schools. So yeah, so it's getting younger and younger. And like you said, Councillor Bourgeois, c'est pas cher. Des palettes, des paires de sneak. We're profitable as a nonprofit. We have $200,000 in the bank. We want to give back
to the community to do that. But it also highlights that we can afford to pay our share of memberships, a share of a project that we would go forward with. So long story, apologize, Councillor, but that's, hopefully that answers your question.
OK, merci. Je vais céder la parole au conseiller Richard, et s'il y en a d'autres, puis je reviendrai avec les autres
Merci,
questions par
conseiller
après.
Richard.
Merci, Marie-Esterio. Thank you for the presentation and the feasibility study. I'm sure all pickleballers appreciate that we're moving forward here. On page 31 of the feasibility study, I couldn't zoom in close enough to see how there's a box. Do you need a new facility decision-making framework? It looked like a copy of a copy. You know what I mean? If we could get a copy, an actual copy of that, what? Non, c'était une boîte, c'était...
No, it's this one. This one.
It was small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to walk you through
No,
it?
no, I'm
through
just,
count?
I'm
Okay.
just asking if we
Okay.
could get another copy of that eventually. The report states that the only location with 6 dedicated courts is Curl Moncton. 2 locations in the feasibility study were called dedicated as the Crossman Community Center and the YMCA for the remaining of the 7 courts, total of 13. Do these locations remain dedicated or maybe more like accessible, available type thing?
More accessible and available through your worship.
And also maybe question pour Isabelle, the relationships that we have with schools, as Mr. Béliveau mentioned, is there room there for some added space?
Thank you, Councillor. I think that we can look at a couple of options. We've already started discussing internally where these could be, whether they are at schools or whether they are at the other facilities, but offering different times. Yeah, we're certainly considering a variety of options to enhance pickleball usage or availability or options in the city. But those require discussions, and so we'll have more in the future.
Since Mr. Béliveau brought that up about, going through the schools, and that's really impressive. So I'm okay with Councillor Bourgeois' motion. If council would happen to vote for option 1B, do we have an estimated timeline for upgrades, AC bathrooms, general upgrades, and how this would create disruptions to Curl Moncton?
We would need to have an agreement in place that would be part of negotiations.
Okay. So I'll finish with pickleball is in full swing and the ball's in our court. No matter what council decides today, I believe we should still begin planning option 2 soon. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, conseiller Richard. Before I go to conseiller Bourgeois, is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who wishes to do so? If not, conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la maire. Prochaine question, c'est est-ce qu'on a considéré dans l'option 2 le financement régional comme un établissement ou un équipement sportif pour tout le sud-est du Nouveau-Brunswick? À un moment donné, il faudra qu'on traverse ce pont-là, puis je trouve que ceci, c'est probablement un très bon exemple. Si on avait, je sais que Dieppe et Riverview, puis il y a d'autres municipalités qui ont des terrains de pickleball, mais si on voulait quelque chose du calibre, je dirais pas un centre à venir, mais une coche plus haut pour aller chercher des championnats nationaux, est-ce qu'on a considéré le financement de la Commission des services régionaux?
Non, on n'a pas considéré ça encore à ce point-ci. Je pense que dans une réflexion pour un projet plus à long terme, ce serait fortement quelque chose qu'on ferait.
OK, merci. Question for the consultant. Is this your recommendation, 1A, or is it staff's recommendation, 1A?
It would be my recommendation to meet your needs currently right now.
What do you mean by right now? Like within 10 years?
Because in 2026, if you don't have a proper lease, then you don't have a place for pickleball, as per discussed by Mo as well, the president of pickleball.
Okay, so it was a feasibility study for the short term.
It was something we found at the beginning that was a blaring issue that you have, that you can't plan for the future if you don't have a place right now. So that would be the first thing. That's why you have a 1A and 1B. That the first thing is to be completing 1A to make sure that was something that can happen.
Okay, so you were obviously selected because you have some expertise in this. If you're looking 10 years ahead, with the growth in the sport and everything else, would you stay at 1A?
For 10 years ahead?
Yep.
If you put in budgeting now, it would be good to actually build a facility to make sure the sport grows, but a single-use facility wouldn't be something that would be suggesting.
Sorry?
A single-use facility would not be something you'd be suggesting. You'd be looking to make a partner or make it on a broader scale of multiple facilities, like a multiplex, those type of opportunities to make sure that gets fully utilized.
Okay, maybe I didn't ask my question right. Would you stick with 1A, status quo curling club, for the next 10 years?
No.
Okay, so I thought. Okay, so I think I've beaten the bush enough. I think it, again, I understand the need for immediate solution to the problem. There's one line in your report that concerns me. It's about Curl Moncton not wanting to do this kind of agreement. I can find it in the report, but they don't want to renew the buy for under the same conditions. So I can find it if you want me to. But that concerns me as to trying to hitch our wagon or two wagons together, pickleball Moncton, curl Moncton, if there's some sort of tension there. So I think this is a good short-term solution. I think it'll work for at least, I mean, if it's only starting in 26 until 27, hopefully we can find a longer solution. And your report should be able to be used in order to develop the alternatives for the longer term. Perfect. Merci beaucoup. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. Could we see the motion, Madame la greffière? C'est beau, merci. Conseiller Bourgeois, est-ce que vous avez autre chose? Non, c'est beau, Conseiller Léger.
Merci, Madame la Maire. Thank you for the information. I guess what I'm wondering is, Curl Moncton's not in the room, and so I'm just trying to get a better understanding. We obviously, as City Council, have put supporting Curl Moncton. There's an outstanding amount of money that, as an investment, I look at it more as a loan, but certainly into that facility. And so I'm kind of surprised that this friction sort of comes out in this type of report as opposed to, being aware of that. Is there really a long-term issue? I think Curl Moncton had expanded to 10 sheets of ice with their belief, and it probably still is within their long-term plan, that curling would gain popularity. And I think it is. I think in terms of their, or at least last year, their numbers were higher. So I'm just sort of wondering, this partnership with Pickleball Moncton was great because of the fact that it made use of an area that was underutilized because they made a conscious decision to stick with one side. And so I saw that as, what's their strategic plan saying in terms of their long-term goals? Are they suggesting then, based on this, that within the next, it seems like, well, all of a sudden, there's a need to have at least a 1-year lease with a renew for another year, which brings us to 2 years. Is that initiated by Curl Moncton, who have a strategic plan that we're not aware of? And before I guess before we get into, we know pickleball is growing for sure. I'm not aware necessarily of all the factors of Curl Moncton. So where are we? And I'm just trying to better understand the partnership with Curl Moncton and Pickleball Moncton.
So Jacques, est-ce que tu veux répondre?
Thank you, Your Worship, to the Council Leger. So one of the things I spoke to the president of Curl Moncton last week, I believe last week, and there's no friction. I don't think I would say that there is friction. Curl Moncton is willing to work with this group. I think it's like anything else. Once you get to the end of a lease agreement, it's to kind of review. And from my dealings with the Curl Moncton president, she was very clear that, again, it's just to make sure that Curl Moncton is in a good situation and pickleball is in a good situation and totally willing to work together. So I don't think necessarily it's friction. It's just part of normal negotiations that do occur once leases are done. And I think that's what we would expect from both clubs to do, to make sure that they are comfortable with the leases going on, but certainly no friction.
Okay. So what is the necessity for the city of Moncton then to be involved in a lease rather than Curl Moncton in a lease agreement with Pickleball Moncton?
Isabelle?
Merci. I think there are certain things that we would certainly like to see, which is that enhanced inclusivity, maximizing some of the time during the day where there's probably less playtime. We talk about prime time quite a bit, but there are certain gaps during the day that we feel that we could, as a city, get involved and offer the community. And so there are things like that are important to us as a city, and that's why we'd like to certainly be part of those discussions.
So that's more our initiation in terms of wanting to do that. In the report, you touched on because it's interesting, the HVAC and so on. So you're probably looking at, well, based on numbers, maybe $300,000 worth of upgrades, whether that's adding air conditioning and so on. Would those be things that we would look at doing in terms of our long-term commitment in terms of pickleball? Like, to me, what this is Curl Moncton's going to have to at some point make a decision on what they want to do. I mean, there's only. That's why I'm wondering, what is their strategic plan? If they're saying, well, within the next 3 years, we're going to take back that because we're going to be able to use that, is one thing. If that isn't the case, then probably should be longer term, and then we have a better opportunity to sort of say, okay, well, outside of that, a lot of good suggestions with respect to a partnership between a municipality and a private sector to build a box that basically we can add more pickleball courts and so on.
Jacques?
Thank you. So in the short term, what I got from the president of Curl Moncton is they need to hit a certain threshold of membership to be able to extend to the 10 pads. And that would not be in the next 3 years that they certainly would hit that membership, or even in the 5 years. I mean, you never know how those things go, but that's not their projections right now. So their plan is, to have pickleball for the short to medium term.
Okay, and then my last question then would be, if the city is negotiating with Curl Moncton and enters into a lease, then what type of mechanism with respect to any possible payback of our investment in Curl Moncton, can that be considered? I mean, I think at the end of the day, the facility serves the community, and that's what we're all about. But on the other hand, I think there's that responsibility that we have to say, well, we need to see if there is ever that possibility to have some recovery so that we can invest in other things within our community.
I think there are possibilities where we would have a win-win-win deal that could strike the three things that you mentioned: have pickleball there, have Curl Moncton, and also, again, with that repayment.
Okay, and a question related to the dome, similar to I think what Quebec City is doing, and maybe I'm.
We have a motion here that we're supposed to be talking on. Now we're going back and talking about option number 2.
Go ahead, Councillor Butler.
I hate to cut any councillor off, but we have a motion, and now we're going back over the presentation, talking about option number 2, option number 3. We have a motion that we should be voting on, and we're going to be talking about that. If we want to make another motion, we can, but I'd like to stick to this one. We could?
Thank you, Councillor Butler. Conseiller Léger, est-ce qu'on peut passer au vote?
So because we have a motion on the floor, I don't have the opportunity to ask questions related to this. So where did all of a sudden I lose my opportunity? Just for clarification on being able to ask a question. I'm not changing the motion. I'm just asking questions based on what was presented to us today.
Est-ce que vous avez plusieurs questions, conseiller Léger, ou juste une? C'est beau.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification where you had said that during the summertime, something related to the use of the dome, you referred to exterior courts. Can you just clarify that? I'm just curious.
The dome has to be meant as a temporary structure, so you can't keep it up all year long. You have to take it down in the summertime.
I see, those are the disadvantages, and that brings the cost down, but obviously limits the use.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Merci.
Merci, conseiller Léger. We will go to the vote if there are no other questions. And it's electronic. Merci, motion carried unanimously. Madame la greffière. Hein? Oh, we're suggesting a 10-minute pause santé health break. Merci. On continue. We will resume the meeting. Merci. We will resume the meeting. Messieurs les conseillers, go ahead, Madame la Greffière.
Your Worship, the next item before council is Kodiak Transpo diesel bus purchase order, and the motion before council this evening is that Moncton City Council award tender TCS 24060 for the supply and delivery of 6 40-foot diesel urban transit buses for the use within the municipalities of Moncton, Dieppe, and Riverview to New Flyer Industries Canada, ULC, at a total cost of $6,258,062.80, which includes estimated fees and expenses and HST at 15%.
Merci, Madame la Greffière. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Légère? You won't move it? Okay. Conseiller Richard et Conseiller Kingston. Go ahead, Conseiller Légère.
Merci. So I was reading the council report form and maybe just need some clarification. It details the number of buses that we've purchased over the, I guess, beginning in 2016, and then it goes as far as the last 4 buses in 2025. And all of those are Nova buses. And so I was puzzled as to why we're looking at New Flyer, other than the fact that they were lower in their bid unit price. Then if I go to the letter that's part of this council report form, it speaks about the buses being made in the U.S. and the possible addition of tariffs that will be calculated within a month or so of when the buses are ready. So then I went and I thought, well, it's interesting. So correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding from what I was able to see is Novo buses are made in Canada. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor, through your worship. Yes, that's correct. Nova buses are made in Quebec, and New Flyer Industries is in Winnipeg. So both of these companies are Canadian.
But the buses that we're talking about will be coming from the U.S. rather than Canadian buses.
Well, New Flyer has 2 plants, so they're a larger organization than Nova Bus. Nova Bus used to have 2. So some of the buses at Kodiak Transpo were actually built in Plattsburgh, New York, years ago, and finished in Saint-Eustache, Quebec. So New Flyer is set up the same way, where they have plants on both sides of the border. In order to sell buses in the United States, they need to meet Buy America requirements, and then in Canada, there's Canadian content requirements. So it's typical for them to have assembly plants on both sides of the border.
So now the Novo bus, would the Novo bus then, if we were considering that tender, would it have tariffs attached to it that can change the price at the end? Because they're made in Quebec, so I don't understand. From what I understand is Volvo owns Novo Bus, and that they move. So I'm just trying to understand. They build buses in Canada, so why wouldn't we purchase a bus built in Canada? And secondly, my second question would be, if you add 4 New Flyer buses to an already existing large fleet of Novo buses, doesn't that create some challenges internally in terms of the servicing of the vehicles?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, very good questions. I'll try to be brief. The tariff situation is very dynamic, I will call it. I don't think the manufacturers know exactly what the upcharge could be. It's not determined at this point in time, but they're basically just giving a disclaimer that they're holding their price, but should something occur in the United States that requires such, we might have to pay a tariff on a specific component, not on the full purchase price of the bus. So it would be detailed in their invoice. Just as an aside to that, these are assembly plants, much like car plants. The bus manufacturing plants are very similar. So engines, for example, are only built in the United States. So those are imported into Canada and assembled on the bus. So there are components in this bus that are American, and we cannot get them in Canada. There's also components on this bus that are from Germany and other parts of Europe, like the axle and the transmission. So this bus is assembled from many different other vendors at the plants. And on the second part of the question, you just have to remind me what it was again.
I think the fact that you'd be buying 4 buses that are
Yes.
not the same as most of the other buses in the fleet.
So that really comes down to procurement policy. We had an RFP with Novabus. It was a public process. New Flyer didn't bid on it 6 or 7 years ago when it was issued. This time around, they have. So we have 2 bidders, and it's a tender, so the lower price is awarded. And we will have some components that we'll have to stock and inventory. But again, we'll be able to, it won't be overly excessive because we'll be able to source parts in Canada through New Flyer out of their Winnipeg service center.
And do we know, we do know that the tender price is lower by $5,000. It's not huge. However, do we know that the Nova bus price also had tariffs? In other words, they would be the same. We know that a fact that the tariff on the New Flyer and the tariff on the Nova bus would be the same.
I don't know if it'd be exactly the same, to be fair, but the engine would be. The example I gave of the Cummins engine, both plants would have to import that.
Okay. And you're okay with the, I mean, I know we have, you made a comment, we have to go by the procurement, but there's also the efficiency within our fleet. And so just wondering, as long as you're okay with that.
Yes, the specification that we issued for this bid, we tried to have it as uniform as possible to reduce the amount of inventory we'll have to carry. But at the same time, we want to be competitive. We want to make sure we get the best price.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That is helpful.
Merci, conseiller Léger, conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Maire. Angela, thanks for being here. Just one quick question. Is this the last of the carbon-based buses that we are going to buy, and the trial for the electric buses will be done, or will there be more diesel purchases until we start fully transitioning to electric buses?
Thank you, Councillor, through your worship. I would say we'll be ordering more diesel buses after today. These buses for Moncton on this order are replacement buses, so we have a number of those that we should be replacing. They're over 20 years old, over 1 million kilometers. They're still on the road, so we need to be sustaining the service, and we're also planning for growth. But we, at the same time, have an RFP in market currently for up to 2 battery electric buses. So in 2026, we will be back to talk to you about that once that moves along a little further. So I think we'll be talking about both.
Okay, so if you had a crystal ball and you said, all right, by 2028, by then, we should be buying only electric buses or hydrogen or whatever.
We'll definitely be well into planning in 2028, and we'll have to do some major retrofits to the transit garage to get ready for zero-emission buses by 2028. And I think the capital budget shows around 2030. There's some large bus orders in there for battery electric, or we could be looking at hydrogen. There may be other things available then. But we do have a forecast in the capital budget for that.
Okay, so the plan is a moving object, but we're heading in that direction at least.
Absolutely.
Merci, Angelo. Merci, Madame la Maire.
Merci. There are no other questions, so we can go to the vote, which is electronic. Merci. Motion carried unanimously. Madame Lagrefière.
The next item is 2024-2028 Canada Community Building Fund Investment Plan Update for 2026 project. And the motion before council today is that Moncton City Council adopt the City of Moncton's updated 5-year capital investment plan for the Canada Community Building Fund 2024-2028.
Merci, Madame Lagrefière. I need a mover and a seconder. Conseil Légère, Conseil Leblanc. Merci. Are there any questions? No questions. We will go to the vote, which is electronic. Merci. Motion carried unanimously. Madame Lagrefière.
Next is allocation of surplus funds, immigrations, and the motion before council is that Moncton City Council approve the utilization of the surplus funds totaling $149,358 from the most recent 5-year funding agreement from April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2025 for the Greater Moncton Local Immigration Partnership project as proposed, and to place the surplus funds in the general operating reserve for utilization of the funds for proposed purposes in 2026 and 2027.
Merci, Madame Lagrefière. Could I have a mover and a Conseil Légère and Conseil Kingston? Are there any questions? If not, we will go to the vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Next is 10.7, application to reinvest portion of WorkSafe performance refund. The motion before council is that Moncton City Council authorize administration to establish a reserve fund of $200,000 utilizing a portion of the WorkSafe New Brunswick performance for the purpose of funding enhanced return to work initiatives. These initiatives would be focused on reducing workplace injuries, improving the timelines and outcomes of early and safe return to work procedures with a goal to reduce future WorkSafe premiums.
Merci. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Conseiller Légère, Conseiller Butler. Merci. Are there questions? Oh, allez-y. Go ahead,
Did you
please.
want to address council?
If there's questions, I can, or I prepared something to speak on, but if there's additional questions, we can. Okay.
There are no questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Oui, elle veut oh, you wish to speak. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, council. My name is Kelly Trites. I am the Health and Wellness Specialist. In this role, I see both occupational injuries and non-occupational, so WorkSafe, our workers' compensation files, and also our sick leave. So I'm here tonight to talk about a proposal for an early and safe return to work program. So WorkSafe New Brunswick, they've announced that eligible employers will receive a performance refund. A performance refund is issued when WorkSafe New Brunswick accident fund exceeds its funding target of 140%. Surplus funds are then redistributed to employers. This year, WorkSafe New Brunswick is returning $53.2 million back to New Brunswick employers, and this is the second consecutive year that this is happening. Last year, the city received approximately $1.2 million, and this year we're anticipating a refund of approximately $410,000. We are requesting that approximately half of this refund, $200,000, be allocated to building a robust, industry-leading return-to-work program that will directly support our injured employees. Some of the current challenges that we've been facing In 2024, we had 30 workplace injuries, either resulting in lost time or medical aid. The total claims cost reached just over $182,000, and that's an increase of over $16,000 from 2023. And we continue to face challenges with the volume, duration, and complexity of claims, including both our physical and psychological injuries. A key issue that we are struggling with is a lack of meaningful modified duties in some of our departments, which prolongs recovery and keeps employees disconnected from the workplace. Research shows that keeping employees engaged in the workplace during recovery results in shorter claims duration, faster recovery, and fewer psychosocial barriers. So we're proposing reinvesting a part of the performance refund into a comprehensive early and safe return to work program that will create and organize meaningful modified duties tailored to the employee's abilities, provide quicker access to treatment and rehabilitation through standing agreements with healthcare providers, launch injury preventive initiatives, provide dedicated resources to case management in managing our workers' compensation claims, reduce the financial burden on employees by compensating hours worked and return to work programs, and to strengthen our partnership with WorkSafe New Brunswick, as we are the first employer in New Brunswick that are collaborating with WorkSafe New Brunswick on a psychological health and safety program. So with limited funding this year, we've had success with some of our departments, such as Kodiak Transpo and Parks, that have already supported employees, and we've had over 5 success stories where we've been able to deploy employees outside of their current classification that may not have meaningful modified duties. So with proper funding, we can expand these successes across all departments. Expected benefits include fewer injuries and cost reduction, employees remaining attached to the workplace, faster access to treatment, fewer lost time days, and lower experience rates over the next 3 to 5 years mean lower premiums that we're paying to WorkSafe New Brunswick. So this initiative directly supports the city's strategic plan by investing in our employees through innovation, where we strive to think and do things differently. So in closing, we recognize that this request is not typical, which is why we're bringing this to administration for council for consideration. By dedicating a portion of the performance refund to our employees, we are not simply funding a program, we are investing in people, strengthening our workplace, and building a healthier, more resilient organization. This is an opportunity to turn surplus dollars into a lasting impact, ensuring that our employees feel supported, valued, and connected. We believe that this is the right step forward for both our workforce and our community. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Kelly. Conseiller Richard, tu veux?
Merci, Maire Esterio. I've worked in safety for the last couple years, finished on Friday, actually. And so I recognize how important this initiative is. Out of the 400, you're asking for 200 to go towards this. The only reason I'm going to ask what we're doing with the other 200 is there a possibility to maybe put that into a reserve or of some sort to continue to fund this initiative?
I'm going to let Jacques answer that one.
Jacques?
He's on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the Conseiller Richard. Yes, so that is a possibility. Currently, if the way that it's proposed, so what would happen is that would go to general revenues at the end of the year, depending on if we have a deficit or a surplus. It will go into reserves regardless, but you could put the motion that would assign it directly for that purpose, if you wish as well.
I'm not sure what the will of council would be, but I know the importance of that initiative, and I would so move to have Sorry, Jacques, I'd love to use your words there.
No, just to allocate the entire amount provided by WCB to be used for the specific purpose, to reinvest in return to work.
So I would move an amendment.
Donc, tu veux proposer cette motion-là, c'est ça?
On a une motion qui va.
OK. Tu vas ajouter?
Ça serait un amendement.
OK, ça serait un amendement. So you're amending the motion.
Correct.
You're not adding to the motion. Could I have a seconder to the amendment? Conseillère Leblanc. C'est beau. Merci beaucoup. Est-ce avez-vous d'autres questions? Non, c'est beau. Conseiller Légère.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. Thank you. Then I have a quick question, two questions. One is if the amendment is passed and it goes from 200 to 410,000 or so, is that, I don't know what the other $200,000 was going to be used for, so perhaps comment on maybe the size of budget that you would need to do what initiatives you had in mind, and in fact, it might be the 410,000, but I'd just like to have some clarification as I'm not in your shoes.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we did a proposal for half the funds. If we do receive the full amount, we can expand on some of the programming. So there's a few initiatives that we have prepared. One is early access to treatment. So right now, WorkSafe New Brunswick has a direct referral to physiotherapy program. They're mandated to see and treat employees within 72 business hours. Currently, that target's not being met. So even this past year with very limited funding, we have partnered with a physiotherapy company that will guarantee access to treatment within 24 to 48 business hours. So having employees have treatment quicker. So that is one avenue where we'd be spending additional funding, is paying for those assessments and treatment. So another area would be doing job site analysis, where we would do cognitive and physical. So those can run between $800 to $1,000 per occupation. And my goal was to go through 15 to 20 occupations within the next year. We could expand that and do much more. So what that would give us is all the functional demands of an occupation from a physical standpoint and also a psychological standpoint. So that when someone goes off work and any of the restrictions and limitations they have, we can match that against the JSA to see if we can keep them attached to their current occupation, because that's our number one goal, is to keep them in their own job. So that would be a couple of examples. We'd also like to onboard a psychologist part-time to help with some of the assessments and to do some of the reviews. And we could also invest part of that funds into the psychological health and safety program.
Okay, all right. Well, that certainly helps in terms of clarity, and certainly I think that I would support that. My other question would be, so this is based on a surplus, and obviously you'd be measuring the impact through 2026, and so maybe a question to Jacques will be, is this an item then that would come back to the next council during council deliberations to continue that $400,000 a year funding in order to make that program sustainable, being offset perhaps by any other surpluses. But in other words, factoring in if for $400,000 these are the measurables, if there were other surpluses, that's fine. But the bottom line is to keep that a functional program.
Juste un instant, Jacques. J'ai essayé de peser sur le bouton, ça marche pas, là.
Thank you, Worship, to Conseiller Legere. So the intention, and as we would do with any program, is we would assess, we would evaluate, and we would ensure that the money we're investing, that there's a return on the investment. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dollar return, but we got to make sure that the investment is working, right? So I think that would be key. I think from the indications we have, it will be key, but we also, like from my perspective, we spend around I believe it's 1.4 million in WCB per year. So Again, but there's lost days, productivity, and things like that. So those are metrics that we would take into consideration to see if this program is real. It will benefit for sure, but what is the proper amount to invest to reap those benefits?
Yes, exactly. But I think at least you'll go through that exercise, and then you'll have some evidence based on the use of this surplus in 2026.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Merci.
Merci, conseiller Léger. Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la maire. Merci pour ta présentation. Je suis 100% d'accord avec l'amendement que le conseiller Richard propose, mais je ne suis pas trop sûr qu'on respecte notre propre politique des procédures. Nick, I need your advice on this one. Is what Councillor Richard is proposing in his amendment the same as the alternative?
Yes. Oui.
Maybe I can jump in. I don't think it is, Counselor, because what we're saying is that the full 400 would go into general reserve, so that's not directed to return to work activities.
Parfait. Merci.
Merci, conseiller Bourgeois. Are there other questions? So we will vote on the amendment first. Donc, is this electronic? Is it electronic? Oui, c'est beau, merci.
The amendment is passed.
Merci, motion carried unanimously. And
The motion as amended.
And then we will go to the motion, the original motion, right?
The original motion as amended.
As amended, okay, c'est beau. Electronic?
Oui. She just has to go in and grab another one. We're voting on the original motion, but it will have the $400,000 as opposed to the $200,000.
Same motion.
Merci, motion carried unanimously. Madame la greffière.
Okay, where am I? Okay. 10.8, stop up and close portion of Argyle Street. The motion before council, I'll read it in, but Keisha is here also to provide some insight. The motion before council is that Moncton City Council proceed with the stop up and close process of the portion of Foundry Street of Assumption. Okay, no, this is not the right one. Just a second.
I'll make a correction to that first recommendation, that Moncton City Council proceed with the stop-up and close process of that portion of Argyle Street at Purdy Avenue, as identified in the attached survey plan of Kim Labrie and BLS dated November 14th, 2025.
Merci, Keisha. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Could I have someone move and second the motion, please? Councillor Edgett, you move. Conseiller Steves, do you wish to second? No. Conseiller Bourgeois, do you wish to second? Oui, okay, c'est beau. So it's moved and seconded. Go ahead, Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la maire, mais sur mon document, je n'ai pas la bonne résolution. Ça serait-il possible de mettre la bonne résolution sur l'écran, qu'on peut au moins la voir?
Good idea.
Pardon me, Councillor Bourgeois, Through Madam Adjoint, the recommendation in itself contains an error, so it will need to be reworded. So the recommendation is in fact that Moncton City Council proceed with a stop up and close process of that portion of Argyle Street at Purdy Avenue as identified. It currently reads that portion of Foundry Street south of Assumption Boulevard, so that's carried forward from a previous CRF. So you can, if we were to bring it up on the screen, it will have that error in it.
Okay, it's just that the document that I have, I don't know if the rest of council is in the same dilemma.
Yeah.
It's about Foundry, Assumption, it's not the same thing. So if we can at least see it on the screen or our screen, that'd be great. Just written down, not that I don't, je fais pas de à ta parole, mais.
We will allow the city clerk to do that. OK, elle va la rédiger.
Merci.
I'll take any questions on the CRF if there is anything.
Are there any questions? Oui, Conseiller Butler, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know how I can question, and back to Councillor Bourgeois, it's the same. It's, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about stop up and go one, then you go down, we're talking about Foundry. I'd sooner table it and let them come back with it properly done. So we know what we're talking about, just for legality sakes. I mean, you can't have two different things. All it is a mistake. It's nothing. Go ahead, Nick.
It's a typo in that first paragraph. We're not talking about two different files. Everything about the CRF is correct. It's just the name of the street in that first paragraph of the recommendation.
Wouldn't you think that means a lot, though?
That's why we're amending it now. That's why we're fixing the error now. It's an administrative error. If council wants to postpone to a later date, we can do that, but we're going to have it fixed in a couple of seconds. It's
fix in
not
a couple of
substantive.
seconds, that's great. I don't know. It talks about Foundry. You see what I mean? Look, they're going to talk about.
That becomes Argyle,
Mhm.
Foundry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't mind, yeah. I can hear it out. They usually hear me anyway.
Keisha, is that correct?
Sure, there's an extra of there, and after portion, and I would also remove "and those portions of city-owned land used as public street." Those words can all come out. And my apologies. Yes.
So is council comfortable with this motion? We are? OK. So, on avait-tu quelqu'un qui avait proposé?
Edget Bourgeois.
OK. So are there any questions on this? There are no questions? No. So we will proceed to the vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously. Madame la greffière.
Next is a stop up and close for a portion of Lee Drive. The motion before council is Moncton City Council proceed with the stop up and close process of that portion of Promenade Lee Drive east of Elmwood Drive as identified in the attached survey plan of Brandon M. McDonald, NBLS, and that Moncton City Council give first reading to bylaw T 221.8 being bylaw an amendment of a stop up and close bylaw, and the administration be directed to publish notice of the hearing following requirements of the Stop Up and Close bylaws of the City of Moncton on the city's website, and that the public hearing be set for December 15, 2025.
Merci, Madame la greffière. I need a mover and a seconder on that one as well. Conseiller Butler, Conseiller Crossman, merci. Are there any questions? No questions, we will go to the vote. Merci, motion carried unanimously. Madame la greffière.
Next is 1010, 2026-2029 Capital Renewal Funding Plan for Province of New Brunswick. Motion before council is that City Council adopt the City of Moncton's 2026-2029 Capital Renewal Plan, CRP, for capital renewal funding allocation.
Merci, Madame la greffière. I need a mover and a seconder on this as well. Conseiller Butler, Conseiller Léchard. Merci. Any questions? Conseiller Bourgeois.
Merci, Madame la maire. Juste une question, Monsieur Doucette. Qu'est-ce qui arrive si, dans le milieu de ces 4 années-là, parce qu'on adopte les 4 années, que le gouvernement arrive avec une nouvelle formule de financement? Est-ce que c'est affecté? Est-ce que ça pourrait être modifié, puis là, on s'ajuste en conséquence, ou est-ce qu'on se lie les mains un petit peu trop d'avance?
C'est quelque chose qu'on ajustera à chaque année.
OK, parfait, merci. Merci, Madame la maire.
Merci, Conseiller Bourgeois. Any other questions? If not, we will go to the vote. Merci, motion carried unanimously.
Next, our reading of bylaws, et lecture des arrêtés municipaux. The first floor for our first readings, and council has provided me direction to do these readings. The last 2 are second and third readings, and we will need permission of council. 11.1 is a bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton zoning bylaw, being bylaw Z222.55, Price and Elmwood Street. It's the first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la Ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z222.55, rue Price et Elmwood. C'est la première lecture. 11.2 is a bylaw and amendment of the City of Moncton's bylaw, being bylaw Z222.54, Station Yards, first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté de zonage de la Ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté Z222.54, Station Yards, c'est la première lecture. A bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the stopping up and closing of highways within the City of Moncton, being bylaw T221.9, portion of Argyle Street. It's the first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant la fermeture des routes dans la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté T221.9, tronçon de la rue Argyle, première lecture. A bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the stopping up and closing of highways within the City of Moncton, being bylaw T221.8, a portion of Lee Drive, first reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant la fermeture des routes dans la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté T221.8 d'une partie de la promenade Lee. C'est la première lecture. 11.5 and 11.6, I will need permission to give second reading to the bylaw for BIA.
Donc, I need a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Steves, Conseiller Redjet.
Okay.
So we will go to
No, just a regular show of hands. Show of hands.
So, manual, okay.
Okay.
Merci, motion carried unanimously. Conseiller Léger. Oui, c'est beau. Merci.
A bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the approval of the budget for downtown Moncton Centreville, Inc., and to establish a special business improvement area levy in the City of Moncton, being bylaw A 10 02.25. It's a second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant l'approbation du budget de Downtown Moncton Centre-Ville Inc. et l'établissement d'une contribution spéciale pour la zone d'amélioration des affaires de la ville de Moncton, soit l'arrêté 1002 à 1002.25. C'est la deuxième lecture. I'll require third reading.
Could I have a mover and a seconder? Conseil Richard and Etchett. Merci. And we will go to a manual vote.
An electronic vote.
Comment?
This will be electronic.
Thank you. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
11.6, I will require second reading approval for Duke Street. Stop up and close.
So could I have a mover and a seconder? Conseil Kingston, Conseil Butler. And how do we vote? Show of hands. C'est beau, merci. Show of hands. Donc, tout le monde est d'accord. C'est beau, merci beaucoup. Motion carried unanimously.
A bylaw and amendment of a bylaw relating to the stop-up and closing of highways within the city of Moncton being bylaw T221.7 Duke Street. It's a second reading. Arrêté portant modification de l'arrêté concernant la fermeture des rues dans la ville de Moncton sur l'arrêté T221.7 rue Duke. I will require third reading.
So, Conseiller Butler, moved by Conseiller Butler, seconded by Conseiller Bourgeois. So we... Quelles sortes de votes?
Électronique.
Oh my God, c'est compliqué. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Next is notice of motions and resolutions, les avis de motion et les résolutions. And the first one, 12.1, is a resolution to withdraw from the Utility Capital Reserve Fund. I will not read the whereas. I will read the therefore. Be it resolved that the sum of $100,000 be released from the Utility Capital Reserve Fund, this being the procedure dictated by way of provincial legislation.
Merci, Madame la Greffière. I need a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Kingston, Conseiller Edgett. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, we will go to a vote, electronic. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
12.2 is a resolution withdrawal from General Capital Reserve Fund. Therefore, be it resolved that the sum of $16,702,956.87 be released from the Capital General Reserve Fund, this being the procedure dictated by way of provincial legislation.
I need a mover and a seconder for this as well. Conseiller Edgett, merci. I think we're all falling asleep. Donc, Conseiller Leblanc, merci. Donc, any questions? If not, we will go to the electronic vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
12.3 is a resolution deposit to General Reserve, Capital Reserve Fund. Therefore, it be resolved that authorization be granted for a deposit in the amount of $2,512,142.12 be made into the General Capital Reserve Fund.
I need a mover and a seconder again. Conseiller Butler, Conseiller Richard, merci. Any questions? No. We will go to electronic vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Where am I? 12.4, resolution withdrawal from General Operating Reserve Fund, and therefore be it resolved that the sum of $1,068,135.25 be released from the General Operating Reserve Fund, this being the procedures dictated by way of provincial legislation.
Merci. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Crossman, Conseiller Léger. Merci. Any questions? We will go to electronic vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
12.5 is a resolution deposit to the General Operating Reserve Fund. Therefore, be it resolved that the sum of $851,037.30 be deposited to the General Operating Reserve Fund, this being the procedures dictated by way of provincial legislation.
Merci. Could I have a mover and a seconder again? Conseiller Kingston and Conseiller Steves. Are there any questions? If none, we will go to electronic vote. Motion carried unanimously. Merci.
12.6, resolution withdrawal from Utility Capital Reserve Fund, and sorry, my pages are coming all into one another. Therefore, be it resolved that the sum of $150,000 be deposited to the Utility Capital Reserve Fund, this being the procedure dictated by way of provincial legislation.
Conseiller Richard, moved by Conseiller Richard and seconded by Conseiller Kingston. Any questions? No? We will go to the electronic vote. Merci. Motion carried unanimously.
Next is 12.7. It's a notice of motion from Councillor Léger, if you'd like to read it into the record.
Allez-y,
Thank you.
Conseiller Léger.
Merci. Notice of resolution to rescind. Whereas Moncton City Council adopted the name change for Glendale due to potential emergency confusion, and whereas a review of NB 911 emergency services to determine if any misdirected calls occurred with no reports of emergency services responding to incorrect calls, and whereas based on new information, the Operations and Communications Center in Moncton, who respond regularly to 911 calls in our area, indicated no issues identified, and whereas NB 911 only responds periodically to overflow calls in the tri-community, and whereas new GPS technology improves location positioning, be it resolved that Moncton City Council amend its decision and not direct a name change for Glendale. So moved.
Merci, Conseiller Léger. Could I have a motion?
And
to adjourn?
and seconded by Councillor Kingston.
Kingston.
No, thank you.
Merci. So I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Conseiller Richard, or do you want to stay here for the rest of the evening? Merci beaucoup. And I want to thank our city clerk because it was quite the meeting. Merci. Aïe, 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 aïe. Qu'est-ce qu'il dit là? Alors, on lui dit à la